My fellow Americans, let me begin by congratulating the team at NASA and our brave astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis 2. It was quite something. It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has never been done before. It's amazing.
Roger, roll pitch. The integrity, AMT high.
Due to that suit being pressurized and expanded, as well as the umbilicals being connected.
We are now falling to the moon rather than rising away from Earth. It is an amazing milestone.
We are standing by for the Integrity crew aboard Orion to surpass the Apollo 13 record.
Integrity, we're now resuming operational audio contact.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Welcome back. Just after 6 o'clock and a very, very good morning. Welcome to Talk. It's the home of common sense, of course, and the home of alarm clock Brits. We want to hear from you this morning. And yes, I am back, you unlucky people. 2 weeks away, completely knackered. Euro Disney with the kids, Portugal with the wife, a bit of work in between. Delighted to be back with the gang on Talk. Poppy Coburn's here straight away. How are you?
Very, very good.
She said to me, where have you been?
I know, I haven't seen you for weeks.
Have you missed me?
I have missed you,
Really?
Yeah, but you're great. You got your nice tan, clearly been enjoying the sunshine.
It comes to something when after about 3 days of holiday with kids, you're desperate to come back to work, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Anyway, we are on, and what an extraordinary couple of weeks in terms of news, but certainly over the weekend. Unbelievable story, of course. We all have seen what happened at the White House press organised lunch dinner. Donald Trump was the target. We saw some unbelievable footage coming out. I'm going to go straight to Ange this morning because Harry Cole, our own Harry Cole, who hosts his own show from DC, was at that White House Correspondents' Dinner. This is Harry Cole. Have a watch. This is Harry Cole live.
Fairly astonishing scenes here at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Just as things were getting under roll, the president arrived, they had the national anthem, people were just starting to eat. All of a sudden, about just a few yards from where I am standing now, through those doors right there, we heard what sounded like a significant number of gunshots. The Secret Service were suddenly everywhere, guns drawn. The president was evacuated. We saw Pete Hesketh being evacuated just right from where we are. The cabinet had been taken out, a major security concern here. But from where I was sitting, it sounded like at least 5 gunshots in the lobby, just yards from where nearly 2,500 people are gathered for this dinner. Through those doors there, they're being sealed off now, was where something happened.
That was Harry Cole. You'll have seen the pictures, I'm sure, of the gunman apparently rushing through the initial security cordon. There was just a ticket that was needed. He fired shots. This was Donald Trump, the press conference of the White House after the shooting had happened. Donald Trump.
A man charged a security checkpoint armed with multiple weapons, and he was taken down by some very brave members of Secret Service, and they acted very quickly and have just released, for purposes of transparency, clarity, I've ordered it to be put out. You probably have it by now. Put out on Truth and put out on many other platforms. A tape showing the violence of this thug that attacked our Constitution, and also showing how quickly Secret Service and law enforcement acted on our country's behalf. Really did a great job. One officer was shot, but saved by the fact that he was wearing obviously a very good bulletproof vest. He was shot from very close distance with a very powerful gun, and the vest did the job. I just spoke to the officer, and he's doing great. He's in great shape. The man has been captured. They're going to his apartment. I guess he lives in California, and he's a sick person, a very sick person.
He's been identified, the gunman, as 31-year-old Californian teacher Cole Thomas Allen, who apparently, I was reading this on the way in this morning, sent a note to his siblings and his family. There he is on screen if you're watching on YouTube, explaining really what his manifesto was, the reason he did what he did. Just before we get to Poppy, a programme in America called 60 Minutes, a few hours later had Donald Trump on, and they decided, did the presenter, to read the gunman's manifesto. Have a watch.
I knew you would, because you're horrible people, horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, you know, I'll do this interview and they'll probably, I read the manifesto, you know, he's a sick person, but you should be ashamed of yourself reading that, because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and I was never, excuse me, you shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. But go ahead, let's finish the interview.
The other thing that he wrote in
That was 60 Minutes on CBS Poppy. Just the whole thing, and we'll just add into the mix before we start talking. And, of course, later today, the King Charles, starts a 4-day state visit. All the papers this morning, front of the Mail, saying King keeps calm and carries on. Palace plans modest adjustments to royal trip after third attempt on Trump's life, as Charles insists he will do his duty. Good morning, Poppy Coburn. What a day.
Yeah, really, what a day. I mean, there's not many occasions in life where I'm not jealous of the King, but I think this is probably one of them. I mean, it's pretty nerve-wracking to be going over there at the moment, isn't it?
I mean, there's all the stuff being written and said that, of course, you know, the thing is, you know, the special relationship has gone to pot, and Starmer and Trump are each other's throats and blah, blah, blah. But listen, that was an attempt on Trump's life. The guy didn't get very far. He's been taken down, and he's obviously now going to spend most of the rest of his life in jail. You saw the 60-minute interview. It is extraordinary. That's the third attempt on his life. Yeah. And there will be many people who will say, why do you carry on in the situation, specifically the King? The King's in a very, very difficult position. He's a constitutional monarch who can't get involved in politics, but there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that the Labour government in this country need him to go out there, and he says he's going to do it. It's been very interesting, isn't it, to be seeing. Did you see the Trump comment? If I'd been allowed to build my ballroom, this wouldn't have happened. I mean, he doesn't stop, does he?
No, I mean, he's got remarkable resilience, hasn't he? As he says, someone tries to kill him 3 times. You know, the first time in Pennsylvania when they
Butler, of course. There'll no doubt be a bounce in the polls. Let's be absolutely perfectly honest, because for him, he can say the Constitution, you've attacked the Constitution, you've attacked free speech, you've attacked democracy, all those things.
The way he doesn't cower, the way he kind of gets up and goes on, I think people do actually find that quite remarkable. You know, he did that the first time he was shot, when he actually was shot in the ear. You know, you could see his ear bleeding, and he just stands up and he goes, fight, fight, fight. I think with this, the fact he's, you know, strong enough to talk about the ballroom that he keeps banging on about.
He does keep banging on about it.
But, you know, if someone I thought was trying to shoot me, that's maybe not the first thing I'd say, but there you go.
Listen, if you want to be involved as ever, we're delighted to have you on Alarm Clock Brits. 6 at 0344 499 1000. You know the number. Tommy's taking your calls, and I have to say, Christian, who's lost a bit of weight and a bit of hair since I was away, he's doing very good though. I sounded like Trump there. He would like you to send him a voice note. Who's going to make the first voice note of the morning? 0344 499 1000. Your text to 87222. Do please start your message with the word talk. So that's all about America. Can we go live actually to America now? We've got Amy Tarkanian. This is great. We're going to speak to Harry Cole later, who's over there. We're going to speak to Kinsey right now, though, Republican strategist in Nevada. Amy Tarkanian, welcome to Talk Breakfast. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Lovely to see you. Extraordinary. A couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about. Obviously, the whole White House Correspondents' Dinner and the shock. I mean, all over every one of our newspapers this morning. There he is. Thomas, Cole Thomas Allen. Bedlam in the ballroom. Trump again. The target, it seems. What's the response in America across the country this morning, Amy?
Well, everyone was in complete shock, definitely in shock because for individuals such as myself who have been involved with events with the president, there are extensive background checks that are done, not just within days, but I'm talking sometimes within weeks or months of an event where you're going to be in the same vicinity, if not the same room with him. Then the fact that this sick individual was able to get past security and past the metal detectors. And thank God he did not get into the actual ballroom itself, but he got pretty gosh darn close. He got close enough and right outside the doors. So that's actually, it's pretty incredible that he was able to get through all of that. And it's very scary. The fact that now this is the third attempt. Yeah. Where is the lack of communication happening within our Secret Service? How is this even possible? And I think that's right now, number one, people are grateful, of course, for the lives that were saved. But the shock, I think right now, people are just in disbelief that that things like this are still possibly happening. In the manner that they are, especially with
I didn't realise, actually, Poppy made the point this morning to me, that ballroom is where Ronald Reagan, they attempted to take Ronald Reagan's life as well. So you would imagine if there was history, I know Trump did the usual Trump thing and started going on about, you know, if I had my ballroom, this wouldn't have happened. But you're right. Right. There have been 3 attempts. One, of course, at Butler at that rally. One, they found a guy on his golf course down in Florida, I think, with multiple weapons. And last night at the Correspondents' Dinner. And many people will say that shows how America is split. But I guess America would rally behind the president, whatever the colour, whatever his political colour, when something like this happens, right?
Well, sure. Most healthy, normal individuals would not wish any ill will or death upon any president, despite their party affiliation. I think the fact that we're now seeing our leaders, not just the top leader in the White House, but we've also had members of Congress that have been attacked by next door neighbors. We've had, or at baseball games, or being turned away just by wanting to have a simple meal at a restaurant and are being haggled. It's gotten out of hand. It's quite scary.
It's, of course, then the whole debate. I was talking to Piers about this some weeks ago, and then you get into the whole debate about guns, and we can go on forever. Let's talk about the King from our point of view. King Charles due to land in D.C. this morning for a 4-day sort of state visit. All the papers today here over the King stays calm and carries on the relationship not in its best position right now. King Charles, we're told, has a job to do. It is quite brave. I could have imagined that trip being cancelled, to be fair.
It could have been canceled, but I think, though, once again, President Trump set the tone. He was not going to shy away, and he doesn't want any particular sick individual taking over an entire situation. You mentioned earlier, we do have the freedom of press. We do have our First Amendment rights, and that is something that we take very serious over here. And so the fact that the president was willing to go on with the show, if you will, with it as quickly as possible, even though that was turned down by Secret Service and everyone had to go home. I think that this speaks volumes that the king is continuing to move forward as well. So then that the two of them, they may not see eye to eye in a number of other issues, but at least they can walk with their heads held up high and saying enough is enough. We're not going to cower.
Couldn't agree more, Amy. Always great to have you on. Thank you. Just a quick idea of what it's like on the ground in America. Amy Tarkanian there, Poppy, in Nevada. 6:15, 0344 499 1000. Stephen Kent, maybe Trump will ask King Charles to dissolve Parliament to restore good relationships between the two countries. Not sure that will work. Paul from Spain. Oh, you had to dig it, didn't you? Morning, Jez. Morning, Pops. Regarding Trump, what's blatantly obvious that this is highlighting the left-wing agenda. How many attempts were made on Obama or Biden's life?
I can't even remember that. I imagine much smaller.
Jason from Worthing, great to have you back. Anyway, normal services resumed. 3 attempts on Trump and the death of Charles Kirk. Never had this problem when Biden was in power. They cannot accept debate. If they don't get their own way, they turn to violence. Now tell me where the problem is, left or right. Morning, Poppy and some sidekick. Damien here. Oh, here we go, from Nottingham. Hope you had a great weekend. Anyway, who is this new but old presenter you have on with you this morning? See that? Did you get this while I was away? This Poppy Love, not Puppy Love. Poppy Love. You saw it? Morning, Jez. I see you. I'd rather see Poppy. Brilliant, George and Leicester. Welcome back, Jeremy. Every time you have a holiday, I don't always. What is this? Honest to God, man. There's a big news story, and the biggest one you missed this time was your protege, Charlie Rowley, made his presenting debut. You taught him well, says Jeanette. I heard Charlie Rowley. I was tuning in for the news, and I rang him and said how good he was. Did you know he was? Do you want your own show?
No, I don't think I could do it.
You'd be absolutely great.
No.
Right, so listen, anything you want to talk about Trump? I mean, lots of people have lots of opinions. The King does land in D.C. Extensive coverage of that, of course, throughout the next few days on Talk, and we'll strip down what's happened. We'll no doubt hear more about Cole Thomas Allen as the process of... you know, the courts and the police and what they do to him comes. But those pictures, if you're looking on YouTube, it's becoming... It sounds a terrible thing to say. I don't know how to say this correctly. It's not the norm, but we're never as surprised. In my mind, I'm never as surprised about America as I would be maybe here. Is that an outrageous... You know what I'm trying to say, right?
No, I do understand.
You think about Reagan having been shot. You think about JFK, and then you wonder about the whole debate about, you know, are American presidents safe? And I thought... I mean, Amy made a point, but there was an amazing piece of footage where this guy, Secret Service agent, just went and stood just in front of the president. They get criticised. I mean, should they be criticised for that? I don't know.
Well, it's difficult until we find out more about the security setup, because it is certainly remarkable that this guy actually managed to get into... I mean,
and he ran past them.
Well, it's not like in Pennsylvania, right, where you're in a wide open space. Yep. Like, you look, they should have checked the hall of that, the hall that this man climbed up on, but it's a really open space in an area you're just doing one stump speech at. This is Washington, D.C., one of the highest profile events of the year. I do think there are questions there, but with the Secret Service, I mean, their jobs are to protect the president with their lives. I think they will try and do that, but sometimes I do wonder with the security measures, because in a country where everyone's got a you know, submachine gun.
There are more guns in America than there are people.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that debate. Piers had to leave America because of that debate. Let's be perfectly honest. Yeah. Listen, Cindy, you've won the award. Morning, Cindy.
Hi, Jeremy. Good morning. This is Cindy in Michigan. About Donald Trump, you know, I'm afraid for him. I don't know how far or when the Democrats are going to stop with their dangerous rhetoric. I hold them responsible. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, Jeremy.
I was growing up, a profound love of the British Empire, actually, and the good that Britain did for the world. And yet, to have that view today seems more of an exception than the norm.
Over the past week, I have been living on the coast of Belgium. Small boats leaving the Flemish coast to go to England. So far, 20 small boats that have left the Belgian coast to come to England.
When they saw that drunk woman at 5:45 a.m. in the morning, they just felt contempt for her. They took advantage of her. They are barbarians.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 6:22. It's a wonderfully bright and breezy Monday morning. We're live across the UK. This is Talk Breakfast. JK back in control. And thank you, by the way, I should say, the amazing Ian Collins, who my wife loves. Fantastic job and having a well-deserved line. The sun is rising. It's fantastic in London. Tell us what it's like where you are, alarm clock Brits. I know you're up and at it early. Maybe you're on the way back from a night shift, on the way up, trying to get the kids galvanised back at school. Whatever you want. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. Morning, Nick.
Oh, Jezza. When is the world going to realise the radical left are the violent ones? We keep hearing about this far-right threat. I'd love to know how it is. I don't know how we combat this. I mean, the left is so radicalised and so violent. Anyway, great show.
That's the takeout this morning, Pop. 6:22. Morning to Big Robbie in Newcastle. Of course, the other big news whilst I was away was that I had managed to do 23 minutes without mentioning those two words. Keir and Starmer. He's still there, hanging on by his fingertips. So whilst I was away, right, he said, it was nothing to do with me. I knew nothing. I didn't. Ollie Robbins then just absolutely skewered the backside off him, to be fair. And he faces another really difficult. How does he hang on? Back at Westminster today, fresh trouble for Starmer. We hear overnight that the police are preparing to question officials over Morgan McSweeney's missing phone. You know, the phone that didn't have the messages, that hadn't been saved, that might have had the messages, that got lost, but it might not have been lost because they would... That story, by the way, that Dan Hodges brilliantly has followed in the Daily Mail is coming to a head. And Dan Hodges will be on this show. Can I just read what Dan Hodges wrote in the Mail? He is here later. It's one of those headlines you just think, Dan, you are the man. I just think this is unbelievable. Bunker mentality has kept Sir Keir blissfully unaware of just how loathed he is. Dan Hodges with more about the McSweeney story on the show later on. So there's pressure there because the police are looking into that rather convenient theft. We don't know the truth behind that. Keir Starmer, also major pressure from rebels demanding a timetable for his departure. We're here over the weekend as well. This is interesting. Old Angie, she could be plotting with Burnham, Andy Burnham. A Blair Brown style pact could be suggested by allies. And then just to cap it all off overnight, because I think this man must be mad. He's also, apparently, they want to bring into Parliament, they think the Speaker's going to allow a discussion about did you mislead Parliament? The very thing that brought Boris Johnson down, right, a sleaze inquiry. He's going to allegedly tell the Labour MPs, if you don't vote not to have it, I'll sack you all. I mean, it is extraordinary because apparently he didn't declare a visit to the headquarters of a tech firm called Plantier in Washington last year. It's important to note, right, that he might not have said he did go because it was a client of Lord Mandelson's lobbying firm, which has gone bust. It's extraordinary, all this, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, he's basically become the man that he hated most in politics, which is Boris Johnson. I mean, from every single angle, throwing people under the bus when it's no longer convenient for him to keep them around, refusing to take responsibility for any of the decisions that he's made, perhaps even misleading Parliament, as we will find out this week, you know, if he has to go through this privileges committee, which is the same thing, as you pointed out, that brought down Bojo. I mean, he's just everything that he said he was going into politics to do, which is that he was honest and a decent man.
She's doing it. It's only 6:25, she's doing it.
Well, I can't help it. I mean, but you know, this weekend he said that he's planning to stay on to fight at the next general election. Now, I don't know if that's a threat to his backbenchers to say, you better keep me on or I'm calling an election tomorrow.
Well, that's the other thing, and that's a really good point, because that's what Rishi Sunak did. He threw his toys out with the bathwater, didn't he, and called an election. They all lost their jobs.
Yeah.
But so what? So he would actually say to them, would he? If you even think about getting rid of me, I'll call a general election. You'll all be homeless.
Well, I think, you know, as Dan Hodges says, it's bunker mentality. I think he is, for months, been basically refusing to talk to his MPs. As soon as he loses Morgan McSweeney, the operation within Number 10 grinds to a halt. Nothing's actually getting done in government, by the way. So when you're looking out around your, you know, hometown and going, there's so many problems here that need to be fixed, the government's not thinking about it. It's only thinking about how it can hold on for another couple of weeks. That said, after the May elections, I can't imagine Starmer holding on for much longer. I think the internal momentum to get rid of him is going to be too strong.
I was reading over the weekend, they always say, don't they, the Labour Party's different. The Labour Party don't have stuff like that. But the truth of the matter is, the guy has become an electoral liability. You have, of course, those May elections. We'll see what happens there. You've got Angela Rayner and the Cabinet circling. I thought it was interesting last week that Ed Miliband went, yes, it was a mistake. They're all circling now. What I find fascinating, and I said this when Bojo was going through his stuff, what I find really fascinating at this moment is, it's a bit like it's which horse to back, isn't it? Because it's like, now, if I keep quiet and I don't show my support for the right person and they get elected, I'm dead. If I stick my head above the parapet too early and then somebody else gets it, I'm also dead. Yeah. And if I do absolutely nothing, they'll think I'm loyal to a man who's toast anyway. Yeah. It's extraordinary, really. There has to be an award, Christian. We haven't got any prizes, but there has to be an award for, in my mind, one of the most completely and utterly unswitched on politicians. He's called Darren Jones. This guy this is an extraordinary title. Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. Brilliant. This is the man who once said on Newsnight, this isn't men coming in on boats. Do you remember him saying this? There's lots of women and children. We're all going, well, where are they? He says, I'm going to play both these clips. He says it's all about security failure. Have a listen, Darren Jones.
There have been some specific process failings around, for example, the security vetting recommendation not being advised to ministers, which many questions have been answered about this week. But it's been made very, very clear, both from Sir Ollie Robbins' testimony to the Select Committee and also questions being answered in the House, that the Prime Minister and no other minister was told about the security vetting question, and so allegations that the Prime Minister knew or lied or that there was a cover-up have just been found to be totally untrue.
Sorry, help me, I know I've been away. The Prime Minister said due process was followed, and now he's backtracking.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Because no one can actually keep their story straight.
No.
That's the truth. I mean, you mentioned this interview that Ed Miliband did last week. Excruciating. I mean, you can literally see the man going, I can't do this anymore. You know, it's too humiliating for me to go out and defend Keir Starmer publicly on television.
I agree. And then Darren Jones, it's brilliant, right? I mean, Mandelson, right, is going to bring down Keir Starmer. I don't think anybody with a brain cell would deny that to be the truth, right? Darren Jones, Mr. I've got no idea what's going on in the world. He says nobody's talking about. Have a listen. He says nobody's interested in Mandelson.
I've been campaigning all across the country with colleagues, and I know how hard that they're fighting in these midterm elections. And I know that the May elections are going to be difficult for the party. After a run of 4 or 5 years on the upside of the curve, you know, people know that these are going to be challenging, and this latest round of issues has made that slightly harder. The one thing I would say, though, as I said, I was particularly taken yesterday on the doors in South Wales, in my own constituency, with hundreds of constituents who could ask me a question about anything they wanted over the course of 2 hours. Not one person mentioned this, not one. What they're really interested in is what this Labour government is doing to improve public services and improve their quality of living.
What this Labour government is doing to improve the quality of services. I would absolutely agree with Darren Jones on one thing. That the hard-working alarm clock Brit, yes, they'll read about Trump and the King, and they'll read about Starmer and McSweeney's phone. They're worried about potholes. They're worried about the cost of living. They're worried about not being able to pay their bills. They're worried about a government in their mind that thinks that they don't actually give a damn about them. That's what they care about, right? It's really interesting. So the Sun, page 2 today, challenge to PM is when, not if. You talked about, I was away, but you talked about Ed Miliband on GMB, when he literally went, yeah, you're right. We've got it. He just gave up supporting him. Here we go, Ed Miliband.
Look, it was a very risky appointment, and it turns out to be been extremely risky for all the reasons that we now know.
I'm not sure. If I'm watching you, I'm not sure what else anyone needed to tell the person at the top of government about this individual that would have made it clear it wasn't just risky, it was wrong. What else did you need to know at that moment?
Well, look, it's a fair point. I mean, look, it's a fair point, and he shouldn't have been appointed. That is right.
Brilliant.
I mean, fair play to Ed Miliband.
Yeah, the first time I've ever agreed with Ed Miliband on anything.
Well, because it's completely true. I mean, not to get too caught up in the weeds of this Ollie Robbins thing, we knew in the first place what was wrong with Peter Mandelson. His nickname was the Prince of Darkness.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not as if he'd never never had a scandal before.
No.
We knew that
sacked twice.
Yes.
The thing that I don't really understand, well, I do, but I don't, is I can't still today, 2 years in, work out whether this is the most incompetent Prime Minister we've ever had, whether he is just completely oblivious to what's going on and what people think. Dan's right in the Mail. He is absolutely, it's written, loathed, right? By left and right, by working people, by the upper classes, by the workers. They just don't think the guy's got the ability. Yep. I don't know how he got there, probably by default, but he got there. It's almost as if, Pops, you want to say to him, sorry, what is wrong with you? Everybody knew Mandelson, and it turns out you've ignored security vetting, you've ignored the words of your colleagues, but you know what it makes me think, and Christian and I had this discussion the whole time, if he was so intent on giving Mandelson the job, why?
Yeah.
What has Mandelson, people won't like this, what has he got on him or them to have bypassed security vetting, bypassed critics, anything?
And you know what's so surreal about this whole story? Because when Keir Starmer was being interviewed at the weekend and was put that question to him, right? Why Mandelson? Why did you go out for this man? It turns out Keir Starmer didn't even bother to call him ahead of his appointment for ambassador. Didn't even speak to the man. It's incredibly bizarre. Why would the Prime Minister not speak to the man he's just appointed?
Does it not make you think, like I think, there's got to be something to put your entire premiership on the line for somebody you know you're going to get rubbish about, to keep sacking people who have been loyal to you, to try and save your own bacon, but to still be, quite rightly, by the way, in the last chance. I think he should go. I never thought it would be this quick, and I don't believe the Labour Party will stick with him at all.
No, I completely... You know what's changed this week? It's the faces of the Cabinet Ministers.
Yeah.
You could see it during PM Keys. I could see it on Rachel Rousseau, Shabana Mahmood. They all looking at him and they are fed up. They're like, this is it.
Well, Rachel Reeves, his career's over.
She's fed up.
I mean, she's absolutely fed up. But she's been fed up since she got the job.
I mean, she was on the verge of tears again. But, like, they all know that it's over. They know that it's over for him.
There's talk as well. Love your thoughts, by the way. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Also, 0344 499 1000. Voice notes or calls, get them in on breakfast. I think it's really interesting about how it's going to play out. Somebody said to me yesterday he'll announce that he's leaving by the autumn so they can anoint somebody else. That would give time for Andy Burnham to get in the Commons. Then you talk about Angela Rayner and the case with HMRC. And then there's that fear amongst anybody with a brain cell that Ed Miliband, him that was just on, could be the next Prime Minister of this country, having been unequivocally turned down by the public how many years ago it was.
I imagine that they're going to try and get rid of him around conference season, but the best laid plans do not always work out, because I figure after the May elections that people are going to panic and they're going to launch a leadership challenge. Maybe it would be someone like...
A stalking horse.
Exactly, because... I mean, frankly, do you believe that Andy Burnham's going to be able to win a seat anywhere in the country?
I'm going to stick my neck on the line, to which people will laugh at me. Today, and this is not even on my list, but this is something from my point of view that I think is the most disgusting thing that this government have done, which is the Troubles Bill. I think the way that Herma and that party have attacked our veterans is an utter disgrace. And there's somebody called Al Cairns, who is the minister, the Armed Forces Minister. Today in the Commons, there's a vote on it. It is a disgust. I'm sorry, you will not, and I'll have the argument with anybody. Thank you 30 years ago for being in Northern Ireland on the duty for the Queen at that point. Thank you for what you did and what you were told to do. But what we've decided to do now is prosecute you, right, at the age of 70, whilst giving immunity to the IRA. That is vile. Today, Al Cairns, right, is abroad when the vote takes place. That's very unique for the Armed Forces Minister. I think he is the sort of person that might be a stalking horse. I've read a lot that says, oh, look at this. Emails obtained by the Telegraph show the Attorney General Lord Hermer telling human rights lawyers they had done more good for society than the decorated soldiers they had falsely accused of murder and torture. Page 1. Honestly, I'm sorry, for me it's the most awful story.
It is revolting.
It is awful.
And the fact that Lord Hermer was the person, behind all of this, was billing £400 an hour to help sue the Crown, to help go after these poor men who we asked to sacrifice their lives on the line for the country. And then, as you point out, now that they're elderly and can't properly defend themselves, we're going after them.
Front page of the Telegraph, Hermer insulted war heroes. Another one of Starmer's cronies, Lord Hermer.
His good friend and fellow human rights lawyer.
I wonder, of course he denies it. Yeah, of course he does. Hermer there it is, front page of the Telegraph. He denies it. How long till Starmer tries to throw him under the bus, do you think?
Well, that's a very good question. He's had several opportunities to throw him under the bus so far. Maybe Lord Hermer's the one that he actually feels he's got the best relationship with.
There you go, 8344... No, what did I say? 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Dan from Kent. Morning, Peter. Brilliant. Who's Peter? Does he think Peter Carboy's doing breakfast? Do you go by the name Peter? Keir Starmer has fallen into the Kamala Harris trap. He's in denial. Also, Brian Cox's response to the shooting in Washington yesterday on the BBC was appalling. He said, well, there's a lot of angry people. Well done. Joanna from Salisbury. Hi, Pops and Jez. Poor Caroline Levitt, next to Melania, was shoved under the table, 9 months pregnant.
Oh, God.
Really? Others there were Charlie Kirk's wife. He was 7 months ago assassinated in front of her. RFK's father and uncle as presidents were assassinated, plus many other high-profile targets. Truly awful for them to experience this. Joel says this is the third attempt on Trump's life. Can we now officially call him the Teflon Don? One thing you might, people, I don't know what you think. You can love or loathe Donald Trump, but he ain't going to back away from any of this, is he?
No, he's not afraid. He's not afraid.
No.
And, I think that's what makes him such a remarkable politician.
To the ad break. Morning, Andy.
Good morning. Welcome back. I see Talk's very own answer to Judith Chalmers has returned. Good to have you back on the radio, Jez, after your holiday. Just on the Trump news, on a serious note, how long is it before all the loonies start saying that it's some sort of false flag, that he's done it himself to kind of vote for the midterms and things, or kind of favour for the midterms and things? Because that's the next thing that'll come up. You wait, you watch. Right, take it easy. Good to have you back.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 20 to 7. This is Talk Breakfast. We're live across the UK on a Monday morning, the 27th of April. Bright and sunny in London town. What's it like with you lot, alarm clock Brits? Would love to know. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. The wonderfully talented Poppy Coburn is here. Morning, Jezza. Good to see you back with the beautiful Pops.
Oh.
That's from your boyfriend. Kinsey and Hodges to come. Starmer on the ropes. What a brilliant start to my bleeding Monday, says Stephen Cambridge. Morning to Sarah or Sarah Bird. S-A-R-A? Sarah or Sarah?
Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah?
I think we'll call a general election, Jeremy. I really do. I don't know why I added that accent, because there's no idea. Starmer Trump, it's all going on. Can we talk about a couple of other things? There's an enormous national fuel protest today, biggest one in 20 years, to take place in London this morning. Simply because I think, everybody understands that whatever's happening in the Middle East, this has been an ongoing problem. Soaring prices are bringing businesses and individuals to their knees. Led by Reform, the House of Parliament is expected to be swarmed by a legion of farmers on tractors, lorry drivers and tradesmen in vans as they demand the Chancellor of the Exchequer take action to tackle out-of-control fuel prices. We'll have our very own fearless reporter Samara Gill down there and Layla Cunningham, London's Reform mayoral candidate later. What's your view on this? It's a massive issue for so many people, right?
Look, I agree that the war in Iran is contributing to this, but the truth is the war on motorists has been going on for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
When this crisis first started up, what was the response of government? It's never to actually properly cut back on taxes or offer real relief, maybe a handout like we give out to every single other person in the country. It's, you're just going to have to put up with it, you're on your own. And so I think, it's completely right to bring up for the people who actually have real jobs, that have to drive in the morning, that can't work from home, that can't just go remote whenever it's convenient for them. They need to be able to get around. And that means if fuel prices go up, that's their livelihood that's being cut into through no fault of their own.
Before I went away, and then I read something when I was away where there are people who depend on their cars, self-employed salespeople, right? Who can't go to work because it's too expensive. Yeah. They can't do their basics. That doesn't help a nation. We talk about growth, we talk about inflation, we talk about how this country's skin. Yeah, you're right. And also, for the people who go, well, there's no money, listen to this today in the newspapers. Benefit claimants are reportedly being offered cut-price spa days. Have you heard this? Golf lessons, kayaking, and even discounts on beach huts, raising fresh questions about how taxpayer money is being used. Why doesn't some of that money get given back to the hard-working Brit and tell them, I know it's difficult, but we're doing something for you? I heard Nigel Farage say this when I was away, and I could do nothing but agree with this. He said that it is now, unfortunately, in this country, an argument between those who work and those who don't. And we've always lived under that premise that if you can't work, you should be supported. Yes, but there are, I'm afraid, feckless, lazy people screwing this country blind, and we need to do something about it.
Well, the emphasis is on can't work. Obviously, if someone's got a severe disability, of course you want to support them. Like, no one wants to get rid of that
But those system. People, Pops, are missing out because of the people who are taking advantage of the system.
That's the truth. And it's also, I think, the other differences in the country is between people who have common sense and people who don't. There are some people, unfortunately, in government who can't believe that someone might cheat the system. They're so naive about the world that they're living in that they can't comprehend that someone would cheat the system. And all I do is I encourage you to come back and see some of the people that I know from my hometown who are more than happy to cheat the system and post about it on social media about how rich they are.
You're so right about that ideology. This is what I don't get about this government, right? They'll say we should help everybody, human rights, we should make an excuse for everybody, and in part that's good. But it's got to the point where, whether it's benefits, whether it's the health service, whether it's migration, whether it's education, whatever it is, they refuse to accept that there are people taking advantage of whatever the latest loophole is. And whilst everybody apparently has turned a blind eye for years, and I say it every day, now the hard-working alarm clock Brits are missing out, and that ain't good enough. That's why the silent majority are going, hold on a second, I'm not far right, I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm simply saying I'm doing everything correctly and I'm at the back of the queue. I've said it for so long.
Well, that's completely true. What's the government actually coming out with? Handouts to people that already have handouts, gimmicks that aren't actually going to do anything about growth. If you want to help the economy, you would slash fuel duty. You would maybe give a few handouts back to the people that are paying into the system in the first place. Thank you for paying all this taxpayer money. Here's a bit of relief when you need it, instead of more money to the people that just take and take and take and actually contribute nothing.
Completely agree.
Maybe that's too much to expect of the Labour Party, which is supposed to be the party of people who
Try speaking to working people north of Watford Gap. They don't give a damn about it. They say this government's forgotten about them.
Well, because it has.
Listen, spot on, 7:15. Here's a man I like, because the whole Troubles bill, you're the same as me, aren't you? And Lord
it's
Hermer.
disgusting.
It is disgusting. Damon, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Nice to have you back, Damon from Wigan. Is Lord Hermer seriously telling me that human rights lawyers have done more good than British troops. Is he absolutely insane? I am proud of my history as a veteran. Yeah, I wait for a knock on the door, but I'm still proud of my time being in the British Armed Forces. It just shows you that what is wrong with this Labour government and the way that they think.
Try and do this correctly all the time. A spokesman, we have to balance it out, for the Attorney General said this morning the Attorney has the greatest respect for the armed forces and the sacrifices they've made for our country. These emails simply show the Attorney offering support to a junior lawyer who was exonerated of any wrongdoing and who was going through a difficult time. He always acted with the highest professional standards, and the suggestion he acted for individuals knowing their claims were false is categorically untrue.
I mean, it just beggars belief at that point. Yeah, I think, pulling back on that point again about human rights lawyers, when was the last time a human rights lawyer gave their life for the country? Seriously, when was the last time they made the ultimate sacrifice?
I think what a great way to go to... I could not agree more. I'm sorry, people who by the end of the show will be going, he's going on about it. I think it is there are 70-year-old veterans, men and women, sat in wherever they're sat, after giving their lives, they're dedicating their lives to the armed forces, who are sitting waiting for a knock on the door from a government that feels fine with prosecuting them for doing something they were told. And let's not forget, whilst at the same time, Herma, giving immunity to the IRA. Yeah, I'm 60 years of age. I know what went on. That is a disgrace.
Yeah, that's the really key point here. So if you're a terrorist, if you blow up civilians, absolutely. You get immunity, total immunity under the law. You know, water under the bridge, we're moving on. But if you are someone who are fighting legitimately under the British Crown, we are going to hound you.
Unbelievable.
By the own state, the state that you fought for.
Absolutely. After the break, Keir Starmer, with everything that's going on in the world, right, you think the Trump assassination attempt, the King, you think he's absolutely up a creek without a paddle, doing what he always does, looking at something in the news and going, oh, I've got a new policy. We talk shoplifting after this.
I hope I wouldn't have used that. Well, certainly I don't remember trying to get any job for my mates.
Can you get a job? Can you help get a job for ex's mates? But don't tell the Foreign Secretary.
I don't think it's completely surprising that the Prime Minister would be so sensitive about the way in which he was dealing with a member of his senior team, and particularly a Director of Communications who's in minute-by-minute contact with the media, that he would want that kept to a very, very tight group of people at the time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It is the home of common sense. It's Talk. It's your chance, alarm clock Briss, to have your views on the news of the day broadcast. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. JK back in the chair. Poppy Coburn from The Telegraph is here. Just very quickly, morning both. Where is the incentive to work when it seems not working gives you so much more than actually working? Blue badges given out for sniffles or feeling a little sad. Countries become a bleeding joke, says Mark in Croydon. Hi, Jezza and Poppy. Read Trump. Have you seen the Fox News clip where Caroline Levitt is interviewed before the press dinner and jokingly says there's going to be a few shots fired tonight?
Bet you've regretted that phrasing.
Oh, dear God. Labour MPs do not have the guts to vote against the lawyers' Troubles bills. They will never be forgiven for it. Mickey Wallington. Mick, Poppy and I agree with you. Sorry, I think that Troubles bill's disgraceful. Yeah. Angela Rayner, says Bill in Cheshire. Given the extremely low quality of the Labour gene pool, she's probably the best candidate. She will, of course, be absolutely useless, but it'll be very amusing. I read an article at the weekend. You know the on-off boyfriend, Sam Tarry, the far-left guy, the guy who ran Corbyn's election campaign? Apparently, his dream is to walk up Downing Street with her.
Oh, that would be funny, won't it?
Ooh.
I'm sure Morgan McSweeney will love that.
Morgan who?
Morgan McSweeney. Do you remember him?
Showbiz. Sorry, politics. 24 hours. Morning, Mike.
Morning, Jeremy. This is Mike here, currently on holiday in Albufeira, Portugal. Talking to the locals here, same issue with the economy. Migrants coming over here. The point is, Starmer won't go. You've got to be joking. He's so bloody minded. You have the hope in hell in him of jacking and resigning. It's such a good number for him.
Sorry, is that a Welshman in Portugal? I met him last week. I'm only joking. 9 minutes to 7. So in the midst of everything that's going on, OK, Trump, the third assassination attempt, the King very bravely will land in D.C. this morning. Big trouble brewing in Downing Street. Morgan McSweeney, did the phone get stolen or not? Police are investigating. There's the threat of a sleaze inquiry, so he's terrified about that. You've got most of the cabinet, most of the MPs sort of trying to work out how they can get rid of him. So what does he do, Keir Starmer? Brilliant. He vows today what he... to end what he calls a shoplifting free-for-all. I don't know if you saw that extraordinary man from Morrison's who was sacked for confronting a repeat offender. Yesterday, there were public protests outside the store. Unbelievable support for this man. So Starmer today, somebody's gone, hey, listen, Prime Minister, I'll tell you how we can get rid of all this worry. Let's start dealing with shoplifting.
Well, hang on. He's
no policy, just let's talk about it.
Hang on, he's thinking of getting a new job. Maybe that's going to be his new occupation when he's not Prime Minister. He's going to be the guy that stands outside shops looking at you kind of menacingly.
Maybe he'll be a shoplifting czar.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to be the new security guard.
I can't, honestly. Nothing said about how disgusting it is that man was fired for simply protecting the store. We've had it for years, haven't we? You can go in and nick... Have you seen some of these videos? People just go in and just fill up bins.
Well, you know, I've got an inside story of this because I used to work in Tesco when I was, a teenager. That was my Saturday job.
I used to work in M&S. I used to stack Feast bananas in a pair of woody gloves. £1.65 an hour.
Well, we were told during our training that when there is a shoplifter in the store, that you do not engage and you just stand to the side. And you know why we were told that? Because we were told this by union rep. Because in some of our London branches, store members who have tried to intervene in a shoplifting event have been stabbed to death. So we don't want to pay for your life insurance. So just stand there like a mug while they put all the smoked salmon packs into their backpack and walk out of the store.
Why don't we get security guards or police on the streets to say to these people, this is not acceptable? Are we not sending a message that's saying it's OK to shoplift by allowing this?
But unfortunately we are, and you can blame the Conservative Party for this under Theresa May.
Yeah,
they essentially decriminalised shoplifting under £500, which is a hell of a lot of money, let's be honest. I mean, that's several bottles of wine you're going to be packing into your bag and walking out
and
the store.
And she knows about wine, let me tell you.
and basically the police just given up on prosecuting it as a crime. So in a store...
Given up, mate. I don't get that, but that's against the law. What is that? Does that not spread the belief that you can get away with anything?
Well, look, if I take my phone out now and I send a mean tweet to someone, I can promise you that I'll have about 6 officers turning up at my flat, knocking on the door, demanding to see where I am. But apparently if I walk into an M&S and decide I'm going to get myself a nice breakfast this morning and walk out without paying, nothing will happen.
Just that's such a great analogy. How does that sound?
Well,
if I put on a... Not that I know... I don't do that stuff, but if you said something that somebody was offended by, you'll get arrested, but you can walk into a shop and just pilfer whatever you want.
Yeah. And you know, in stores where it says shoplifters will be prosecuted, it's not the fault of stores, it's the fault of police, because they don't actually bother to do anything.
Do you want to know how soft I am? I've only just learned... See, I think this self-service crap, right, is designed... we're going to save money. And then you have to spend your entire time getting the person to come over and unlock... Anyway, I literally went back the other day because I forgot to put in that I had a bag. Oh. And I went to the woman, I said, I'm terribly sorry, 15p, can I give you the money? She said, don't worry about it, love. But wait, I'm being serious, we were brought up differently, you didn't nick.
Well, yeah, but the M&S...
didn't nick.
M&S chief said earlier last week that self-service checkouts are turning people into shoplifters. And I was like, hang on, are we supposed to feel sympathetic towards people who are deliberately not scanning stuff?
Honestly, I live in a different world.
Wrong.
Zoe's in Lancashire says, see the massive difference between our country and America. They don't give a crap about blocking out criminals' faces. They're great at naming and shaming these monsters. Here it's all about protecting crimes and identity and keeping them safe. It's wrong. It's the wrong way around. I have to agree with that. Dave's in Aberdeen. That wasn't a very good accent, was it?
No.
Morning, JK and the beautiful Poppy. Harmer is unelected, therefore unaccountable. Should Starmer grow a pair and sack him, will never happen. He moves across to the House of Lords, again unelected. There isn't even a picture of him wearing a poppy. Makes my blood boil, says Dave in Aberdeen. Jeremy, we are at Howard Klein in Suffolk. We are experiencing the third rule of the communist playbook. Turn groups against each other to cause unrest and dissent so you can then clamp down hard with draconian laws to control the proletariat. Some examples to communists use: turn old people against the young, working against non-working, the far right against the left, Christian against Islam, ex-military and the IRA. That is Howard in Suffolk. That's an interesting analogy, isn't it? Jeremy, I'm on UC and I'm ashamed. The reason I don't work, but I do volunteer when I can, is my husband has a serious lung condition and is on oxygen, and we have a disabled child. He came here from Ireland 50 years ago and worked so hard, but I know so many people that are fiddling benefits and getting disability. They get more than me and my husband, and we are too ignorant or naive about what we can or cannot claim. One apparently has severe agoraphobia and anxiety, but he plays in a band every weekend in clubs and pubs. Mary in Canterbury, can I just salute you? Because whenever we have a debate, and I've said this so much about, you know, we need to be stronger on benefits. People like jump up and down, and I get it, and they go, you're being horrible. No, no, no. It's people like Mary who are missing out because people are gaming the system, right?
Yeah.
She's absolutely the person that I'm happy to go to work and pay my taxes for.
Exactly. The thing is, when the pot of money runs out, and it will run out, the direction the country's going in, the people who are legitimate and have a real claim to benefits will be the one who suffer. That's the truth. You know, they're going to be the ones that are going to lose out when this whole system collapses. And it's because we've let fraudsters and, you know, people who just don't really care about being honest game the system for decades.
I don't understand the reality of that as an idea. 0344 499 1000. Are we going to this voice note? Morning, Dan.
Morning, Jezzo. It's Dan from Kent. How was your saga holiday? It's good to hear your voice. This is a third attack on Trump's life, and I fear it's going to spread to this country if in the next general election we end up with Nigel Farage as Prime Minister or even Rupert Lowe. The left result to violence. They're going to do everything in their power. Yes, we don't have guns, not as much as America, but look at Farage in the last election, the milkshake debris thrown at him when he was on that bus. And I fear it'll just get worse and worse. It's getting sickening. Great show.
Can I just say to you, Pops, that before we finish, I was listening to some article, some interview over the weekend, and a particular MP, a Green MP, just said to somebody from Reform, I don't even know, maybe Restore, I don't know, this is far right. And I'm sat there again thinking, no, those are conservative values that I was brought up on. There is a real split in this country, isn't there?
Yeah, completely there is. I mean, I don't think we've actually been this divided in living memory. You know, I think people are at each other's throats, but again, someone said this earlier in the show, there is a problem with the far left that we don't talk about enough, OK? Like, we hear about the far right till the cows come home, but there is a serious violence problem with people on the far left. You can see it when you meet them. They are completely deranged, you know? They can't talk to anyone across the political spectrum other than their own, and that's not normal.
I've missed you. Are you back in again this week at all?
I am.
What day are you in?
Thursday.
I love her. The amazing Poppy Coburn, who will be back on Thursday doing the papers. Thank you very much indeed. It's almost 7 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Breakfast on Talk, the home of common sense. We want more of your views on the news. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. News at 7. And then back with the chief political writer of Spark, Brendan O'Neill, or even Spiked, is next on Talk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With permission, I'd like to provide the House with information that I now have about the appointment of Peter Mandelson as our ambassador to the United States. But, Mr. Speaker, before I go into the details, I want to be very clear with this House that while this statement will focus on the process surrounding Peter Mandelson's vetting and appointment, at the heart of this, there is also a judgment I made that was wrong.
The name had been submitted to the King as Minister's recommendation. The Prime Minister had made an announcement that Mandelson was his nominee without caveats. The British government had sought agrément, the formal diplomatic process for a host government accepting a nominee from the US government, and that had been obtained before I arrived in post. The position taken from the Cabinet Office was that there was no need to vet Mandelson.
Mr. Speaker, I know many members across the House will find these facts to be incredible. To that, I can only say they are right. It beggars belief that throughout the whole timeline of events, officials in the Foreign Office saw fit to withhold this information from the most senior ministers in our system in government.
This was not due process. Everyone knows the price of misleading the House. Will the Prime Minister finally take responsibility and go?
Mr. Speaker, let's be absolutely clear. Before Mandelson took up his post, UKSB recommended with red flags that clearance should be denied, and there was high concern that was not brought to my attention or the attention of the Foreign Secretary at the time or subsequently is a very serious error of judgment. She rushed to judgment as she always did, just like the Iran war. Mr. Speaker, I was elected by the British people because they let the country down for 14 long years. Whatever she says, whatever noise they make, nothing is going to distract me from delivering for our country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 7 o'clock. You're very welcome to Talk Breakfast. It is, of course, the home of common sense and the home of the alarm clock. Brit, you know who you are. We'd love to hear from you this morning, Monday the 27th of April. And what are you waking up to? Well, you're waking up to the news. Third attempt on Donald Trump's life, of course, last night at that White House Correspondents' Dinner. You'll have seen the footage, no doubt. 31-year-old Californian teacher Cole Thomas Allen attempted to get near the president, was brought down by the Secret Services, asked so many questions. Of course, the King Charles and Queen Camilla, due in Washington, D.C. Later today. That goes ahead. The front of the Mail this morning saying King keeps calm and carries on. That's an incredibly brave thing to do in the back of another attempt, but Trump hailing the brave king for agreeing to that visit. We'll talk loads about that this hour. We'll also talk Westminster. How can we do a show without talking about Sir Keir Starmer, who really is on the ropes? Overnight, the Metropolitan Police are going to question Downing Street officials about Morgan McSweeney. You remember him, the Chief of Staff? His phone that went disappearing. Conveniently not. There's mounting pressure. Oh, there he is, head in hands. Mounting pressure from the backbenchers. There's talking of plots between Burnham and Angela Rayner. I don't know why I do that. There's a cabinet with disaffected-looking faces. It's all going on. And just the icing on the cake is that he faces the chance of a sleaze inquiry, Starmer. Bear in mind, that's what he pushed for Boris Johnson. That's why Boris Johnson's political career ended. He's been accused, Starmer, of breaking the ministerial code by failing to declare a visit last year to a tech firm called Palantir. And guess who they were a client of? Lord Mandelson's lobbying firm. So Starmer, right up a creek without a paddle, which is causing a lot of joy amongst my dear and faithful 11 listeners. Also today, the biggest national fuel protest in 20 years will take place around Parliament. Farmers, lorry drivers, tradesmen in vans demanding the Chancellor of the Exchequer takes action to just deal with out-of-control fuel prices. The government just go, well, it's because of the Middle East situation. That was a problem before, Rachel Reeves. You need to do something to help people who are really, really struggling. Reform's mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham, will be on live from there later. And our own reporter, Samara Gill, why am I singing her name, will be live as well. Now, my next voice note, I mean, it is Monday. I know I'm slightly excited. You would be, to get away from... No, to come back. Anyway, Matt, come on, wake up, boy. Sound a bit happier. Matt?
Morning, Jezza. Matty Warrington, about to load the van. So in 2 years of this Labour government, what have they actually done apart from bring the country to its knees? It's a terrible, terrible party. I can't think of a day where anything's been positive by him, apart from, I don't know, free breakfast clubs for kids. Don't need that. What I want a prosperous country with a good military, with a good health service, with good politicians you can trust, and know that I'm not going to get a letter in a couple of weeks' time because I served in Northern Ireland in the 90s. Okay? What's this country come to? Margaret Thatcher will be turning in her grave. Our great queen, she'll be turning with her as well. Anyway, good to have you back, Jez.
He actually highlighted something I didn't say in the introduction, which drives me insane. Poppy and I are united in this. This Troubles Bill this government has brought in, which is basically persecuting, I'm going to use that word, veterans, men and women who served this country in Northern Ireland, who did what they were told to do, sitting and waiting for a knock on the door to be prosecuted whilst giving immunity to the IRA. Front page of the Telegraph today. Hermer, the Attorney General, Starmer's mate. Hermer insulted war heroes. That, for me, is such a massive story. 0344 419 1000. Text to 87222. It's been 2 weeks since I saw the chief political writer of Spiked, not Sparked, Brendan O'Neill. Good morning, me old son. How are you?
Hi, Jeremy. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, yes. Lovely to be back. And it's really weird. 14 days after I went away, I came back, notwithstanding the Trump thing, and Starmer right up a creek, even still without a paddle. Let's start, though, with Donald Trump. You'd have seen all that stuff overnight. Harry Cole, our correspondent, was at the dinner, and he sent this report to us. Let's just play this for people. Harry Cole.
Fairly astonishing scenes here at the White House Correspondents' dinner. Just as things were getting under roll, the president arrived, they had the national anthem, people were just starting to eat. All of a sudden, about just a few yards from where I am standing now, through those doors right there, we heard what sounded like a significant number of gunshots. The Secret Service were suddenly everywhere, guns drawn. The president was evacuated. We saw Pete Hesketh being evacuated just right from where we are. The cabinet had been taken out, a major security concern here. But from where I was sitting, it sounded like at least 5 gunshots in the lobby, just yards from where nearly 2,500 people are gathered for this dinner. Through those doors there, they're being sealed off now. It was where something happened.
Brendan, third attempt on Trump's life. The first, of course, was at Butler at that outside rally. Then, of course, on the golf course in Mar-a-Lago. And then last night, it asks so many questions about how people can get that close. It opens up a huge debate about weapons and people with political ideology. And in fact, many people have phoned this show this morning and have said, we hear about far right. This is the danger of the far left. What was your thoughts when you saw these pictures and heard the news?
Well, exactly. You know, there's a lot about this that is specific to America. I mean, they've got guns in America, which we don't tend to have in the UK, and they've got a gun culture as well. So there are some issues here that, you know, the fact that this is a third assassination attempt on Trump, you kind of think to yourself, this is an American issue, but it goes broader than that, because what it also speaks to is the hysteria of the modern left. Because what they've been saying about Trump these past 8 or so years, that he is the second Hitler, that he's the most racist man in the world, that he's a tyrant, that he is a threat to world peace. I mean, this is the commentary we've had, not only on the left, but in the mainstream media as well. And if you go around saying that someone is Hitler 2.0, he's a Nazi, he's destroying the American Republic, he's killing people left, right, and center, you are going to ratchet up this deranged hatred for him. And I do think that is what's propelled these 3 assassination attempts, this idea that Trump is not only a president that people will agree with or disagree with, but a kind of demonic figure who poses a threat to politics itself. That kind of hyperbole has endangered Trump, I think, and that's pretty clear to see now.
It's really interesting. I wasn't going to play this, but I'm going to. On the back of that assassination attempt, the dinner was cancelled. It emerged that the gunman was a 31-year-old Californian teacher, Cole Thomas Allen, who before he did what he was going to do, he sent a sort of message to his siblings via email explaining how he saw the Trump administration. And without naming Trump, he sort of had a little manifesto. And he called him all... He basically said that the administration was full of paedophiles and rapists and criminally insane people. And lo and behold, mainstream media, CBS, in their 60-minute programme, the presenter read that out to Donald Trump in the wake of this assassination attempt. Have a watch to how he responded to that, Donald Trump.
I knew you would, because you're horrible people. Horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
Do you think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, you know, I'll do this interview and they'll probably... I read the manifesto. You know, he's a sick person. But you should be ashamed of yourself reading that, because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and I
these
was
are
never...
the gunman's words.
Excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. But go ahead. Let's finish the interview.
The other thing that he wrote in the...
It's quite interesting, Brendan, isn't it, that the debate this morning, and whether you love or loathe Trump, whether you have things that you... And there isn't... you know, there are things that I don't agree with. But it is an interesting analogy that people have put together, certainly that are contacting this show, that actually we hear about, oh, Starmer stood up, the far right, the Southport riots, it's all far right, it's far right. There is, on the other side of the political spectrum, many, many people who could be seen as dangerous as well, I suspect.
Absolutely. More dangerous, I would say. I was cheering Trump when he was pushing back there against CBS, because to read out the words of a man who seemingly wanted to kill Trump, wanted to murder him and others, that's disgraceful. And that really demonstrates that, you know, I was just thinking to myself before you showed that clip, that there will be people in the mainstream media who will agree with what was in this alleged killer's manifesto. They will agree that Trump is a pedo and a racist and a lunatic and the worst president ever. So the fact that they were reading it out was really shocking. But you're right, you know, we hear about the far right all the time, you know, mums in pink tracksuits protesting outside migrant hotels. They're called fascists. You know, people who support Israel, they're called fascists. We get this terminology and these insults all the time, while on the left there is this growing sense of violence. There's this growing sense that if someone has the alternative point of view to ours, then they have to be cancelled, they have to be beaten up, and they might even have to be killed. This kind of violent animus that we're seeing towards anyone who's critical of left-wing views, I think that is what's underpinning a lot of the hostility towards Trump right now.
Now, of course, the other news alongside, and you can see him there on screen, Cole Thomas Allen on the floor, brought down by the security services in America, is our King Charles and Queen Camilla due in D.C. today for a 4-day state visit, which is really interesting. And to be fair to the King, it's going ahead. King keeps calm and carries on, and Trump hailing the King as brave for agreeing. This is Trump when asked about King Charles's visit.
The King is coming here, King of England.
I think it's great. He'll be very safe, yeah.
Yeah, and
you know,
will your events be able to go forward? You're no concerns about security going forward?
The White House grounds are really safe. This area of not very many acres, it's really safe. And he'll be staying here. Now, I believe he's going to a couple of other locations because he's here for a few days. And he's a great guy. Oh, they called, and they are so looking forward to being here. We spoke this morning.
So the King is fine. He's still coming. Your events are still going forward.
No, he's a good person.
There's no indication from the Secret Service or the FBI that there's an additional threat to you or other administration officials?
No. This was a lone wolf, in my opinion. No, but we may find out something else. This was a sick lone wolf. He's a sicko.
Brendan, that's the big news. The other big news, and sort of following this whilst being away, is extraordinary. I mean, Starmer, let's sum it up. Last week, skewered by Sir Ollie Robbins, the highest civil servant in the Foreign Office, who basically called him a liar. Fresh trouble overnight because the police are preparing to question officials over Morgan McSweeney, the ex-Chief of Staff's missing phone. He's got pressure from Labour rebels and backbenchers. He's got a cabinet swirling with discontent. You can see that on their faces. Rumours that Angela Rayner is about to be cleared by the HMRC for not paying the tax that was needed. She and Burnham apparently getting buddy. But also, there's this sleaze inquiry that's hovering over Starmer about this tech firm visit, Palantir in Washington. He forgot to mention that he went, and it was a client of Mandelson's lobbying firm. He apparently threatens, or is going to threaten Labour MPs, if you vote against me, I'll sack you. Do you think this man is that deranged that he could do what somebody said earlier, which is go, do you know what, if you don't support me, I'm going to call an election, you'll all use your seats and I'll go off and enjoy me in-tap retirement on my own?
You know, it kind of puts Boris Johnson's birthday cake into perspective, doesn't it? All the stuff that's happening with Starmer right now. I mean, this is the guy who said he would come to Downing Street, clean up British politics, get it back onto the straight and narrow, make things normal again, and really, you know, get things done. He's done the opposite of all of that. He is completely coated in scandal. It seems to me the sleaziest government that we've had in quite some time, and he just lurches from one scandal to another. You know, the Mandelson one, now the Palantir one, the suggestion that he didn't declare a visit that he'd had to Palantir's headquarters in Washington, and of course Morgan McSweeney's mobile phone. I mean, I don't like to cast aspersions, but as soon as I heard that story that his phone was nicked, I just raised my eyebrows, because that seems so incredibly unlikely. Because think of all the juicy stuff that is on that phone.
But also without casting aspersions, because the police are looking into this, add into the mix there were two phones, and the one that had the messages on, that was the one that you couldn't retrieve any data on because it had been switched off. And he didn't say what he did when he... There is so much to that story that's like, do me a favour, and I could be totally wrong. The police will look into it. But it's just another example of... I said it earlier, B, right? I keep thinking, is he genuinely that incompetent? My 6-year-old could make better decisions. Is he oblivious or doesn't give a damn about the electorate? Dan Hodges, who follows this story, and we've got him on later, and won't let go, quite rightly, says that there's almost a bunker mentality. He doesn't know how loathed he is. That's what Dan writes today in the Mail.
You know, the thing is that I think we're witnessing not just the fall of the Starmer government, but the fall of the Labour Party. That's the real story here, because, you know, for some people in Labour, it's convenient to say this is a Keir Starmer problem. It isn't. It's a Labour Party problem. This is a party that has lost touch with the people. This Labour government doesn't know what the ordinary Brits want, doesn't understand them, doesn't trust them, doesn't listen to them. You know, I was thinking last week we were talking once again all the time about Mandelson's vetting scandal, and that's a big story. But at the same time, 600 men, unvetted men, came to this country. I looked up the figures. 600 came last week. 3 of them who came a few months back were found guilty of one of the most heinous rapes that has ever occurred in this country. 3 men, 2 from Egypt, 1 from Iran, who came here illegally and who were unvetted. And if anyone protested in the streets, like those working class women in Epsom and up and down the country, protested about the unvetted men moving in next door, they were called racists and they were called scumbags. So even though this is an important story, there is something weird about the fact that we're obsessing over Mandelson's vetting and overlooking the fact that hundreds and thousands of unvetted men are living on the streets of ordinary people.
I couldn't agree more, but I wonder whether, and I could be missing the point, I don't know, let me know, peeps, maybe those who want him out realise that this personal disaster around Mandelson, around Epstein, around alleged sleaze is the way to get him personally. Because let's talk about migration. The Tories didn't sort it. The Labour Party haven't sorted. Nobody seems to have the cojones to say this is what we're going to do. I'm not saying it, but it might be that because of the very thing that you said at the top of this interview, which was that he came here and he said, grown-up politics, no sleaze, no jobs for the boys. And within 5 minutes, he's wearing suits from Lord Alley and new glasses, and the whole thing's gone downhill from there. I can't believe It's quite interesting. Margaret says, Starmer keeps throwing the comment of the failure of the last 14 years. She said, I cannot believe he's achieved even more in terms of sleaze in only 2 years. He must be really proud now. And I get it because, you know, the country had stopped listening to the Tory party. It took 14 years. You said it just then. I spent a lot of time in Newcastle, right? There is no way that the working class people north of Watford Gap, my friend, think of the Labour Party. What does the name say? Labour. They don't think of them like that at all anymore. Not at all.
No, absolutely not. And you're completely right that a lot of people see the Mandelson scandal and all the other scandals as a pretty useful way to put Starmer on the spot and hopefully to move this government to one side. I completely agree with that. I think Kemi Badenoch's been doing a good job on that, really pushing it hard and saying, when are you going to go? That's really understandable. I just hope at the same time we don't lose sight of the fact that for all their scandals, what this government has done in terms of policy is even worse.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because I will not give up on talking about one of the worst pieces of legislation I think any government has ever considered, which is this Troubles Bill. The way Hermer and Starmer think it's acceptable to attack servicemen and women who were doing their job as told, who are living in fear 30 years later. They're going to be prosecuted for doing their job whilst giving immunity to the IRA is, in my mind, one of the most disgusting things this government's done. I really, really personally feel that so strongly.
You know, the Hermer, it's so useful to talk about this because the Hermer scandal almost puts the Mandelson scandal into the shade. Because when you look at what his role, the role he played in that attempted persecution of soldiers who were in Iraq, we now know that the claims made against them, the claims made against them were a tissue of lies, jumped up nonsense, real demonization of these men who put their lives on the line because their country asked them to. And we now know that Hermer had concerns about these allegations, but still pursued some of them. That is horrific. And that really speaks to how completely out of touch this government is.
I mean, I have to say the point. He basically denies all this. We read out the statement earlier. I have to say that for balance. But listen to this from Richard in Leicester. I think this is interesting. Jez, the prosecution of UK veterans by UK politicians. Some might say the politicians are traitors, as in my mind, is it not politicians that send veterans to war?
Well, exactly. You know, we're talking about young men here, often young men from working class backgrounds who are brave, who train hard, who go to a foreign war zone, put their lives on the line because the political class asks them to do it, and they are willing to do it. The fact that that same political class a few years later turns around and tries to get them banged up, it is absolutely sickening to the stomach the way they've behaved towards these soldiers. And I think this is such a huge scandal, and it demonstrates the real problem with this government, which is that they have not got their finger on the pulse. They don't know what ordinary people are thinking. They don't know how angry your listeners are over an issue like this, when soldiers can be treated so shoddily by the government itself. It really is quite a sickening spectacle.
Couldn't agree more, mate. It's great to have you on. So appreciate it. Lovely to have our usual chat. The brilliant Brendan O'Neill, Chief Political Writer at Spike. Thank you very much indeed. 7:23. Breaking news, my friends, until breakfast. Breaking news. This just in, a 37-year-old man has been arrested near Barnstable in Devon on suspicion of preparing terrorist acts. We learned that in the last 2 minutes from the counter-terrorism police. Officers arrested him whilst investigating a string of attacks on Jewish sites in London. I've been on an hour and 25 minutes. We haven't mentioned the scourge of anti-Semitism, but a 37-year-old man just been arrested near Barnstable in Devon by counter-terrorism police investigating a string of attacks on Jewish sites in London. We'll keep you updated. Rob, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Welcome back. Just watching the Donald Trump thing there. Donald Trump's been the only president brave enough to actually take a stance against Iran. And I think he has potentially stopped a real World War III, because I think the Israelis were very, very close to having to act themselves in a terrible way to stop these people getting a nuclear bomb. Off the back of it, he's become hated by the lefties, and of course our man here, Starmer, wasn't prepared to help. So we've now lost the best friend we ever had, and we're not strong enough to take anybody on anymore. We're a bit of a joke when it comes to military stuff. He stood tall. Somebody else has tried to kill him. It doesn't look like they're going to stop. But the CIA, the FBI, they're all getting pats on the back for the way they behave. That guy shouldn't have got anywhere near that place. He nearly got in the room and he nearly got to kill lots and lots of people. They need to have a big look at themselves again. And anybody who they think or call to the right in any way, shape or form, including our own Nigel Farage, needs to take great steps, because these lefty loonies are far more dangerous than anybody who they like to call far right. Good morning, everybody.
A position taken from the Cabinet Office was that there was no need to vet Mandelson. He was a member of the House of Lords, he was a Privy Councillor. The risks that attending his appointment were well known and had been made clear to the Prime Minister before appointment. Now, in the end, the FCDO insisted and put its foot down. I understand my predecessor had to be very firm in person. But that was a live debate at the point of announcement, and I think it's important to make that clear.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7:28. It's Monday morning. You're with the home of common sense. This is Talk Breakfast. You're waking up to the news of Donald Trump's third attempt on his life last night, the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The King's visit that was taking place today, starting in D.C., goes ahead, very brave. Lots of fallout from what happened. CIA, Rob made the point there, and the Secret Service are being questioned. The President then did an interview where he was torn to shreds on CBS's 60 Minutes, where they threw all sorts of stuff at him. Many people phoning the show this morning are saying, we hear about the far right, what about the far left back home in Westminster? Problems mounting for Starmer, whether it's police preparing to question officials over Morgan McSweeney's missing phone, whether it's just unhappy Labour MPs, discontented cabinet ministers, a potential sleaze inquiry, Lord Hermer allegedly attacking the military services. He denies that, of course. So much to talk about. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Just want to get a quick update on what's happening in the Middle East. Next up is Sean Bell, former fighter pilot, now top military analyst. A very good morning, Mr. Bell. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. Very well. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much indeed. Just in terms of, from you, a quick update of where we're at. I know I read on my way back that there were going to be more negotiations. There was a big thing made that Vance wasn't allowed to go and that Wickoff and Kushner were going, and then that was cancelled. And Trump came out and said that Iran can call the US at any time to negotiate. We're holding all the cards. That's not altogether true, is it?
No, it's a strange situation at the moment. There's ceasefire. President Trump's normally very good at making deadlines for if the ceasefire isn't, if the talks don't progress, then we'll return to violence. But he hasn't actually given a date this time. And it feels like both sides are in a bit of a stalemate, to be brutally honest. You know, the America says they're blockading the Strait of Hormuz. They're not. It's the Gulf of Oman they're actually blockading, and therefore they claim they control the straits. Meanwhile, the Iranians actually control the Strait of Hormuz. And at the moment, I say everything's just paused, and unless you start talking, it's not going to get resolved. And the very fact that America's stopped sending any of their envoys or the vice president across, I think it just demonstrates that either they're both trying to play each other long, see who's got the longest patience, and quite frankly, at the moment, I suspect America will probably snap first. But there's lots of options available to both sides here, Jeremy. But at the moment, it does feel an uncomfortable truce.
What's the reality of the Straits of Hormuz at the moment? We heard, did we not, that first of all, you know, there were mines and that the Iranians were controlling. Then, as you said, he said he blockaded it. I mean, we've talked today this massive national fuel protest, biggest in 20 years in London. There's no doubt the impact of the inability to go up and down the Straits of Hormuz is impacting the world economy. No sign of that getting better at this moment in time?
No, I mean, the protests, I can understand the frustration. I mean, we're nearly up to £2 a litre, and the last time I filled up my car for diesel, very painful. But whatever protests do, it's not going to change what happens actually in the Strait at the moment. I think, as you say, there are two blockades in place. I think the trouble is President Trump's got three options here. The other returns to violence. Well, of course, that hasn't worked so far. Very unlikely to work again and just prolong the whole thing. The second one is to negotiate. But of course, the trouble with negotiating, it involves compromise. And he's recently claimed again that Iran has no cards. They've got no leverage. Well, of course they have leverage. They're still standing and they control. They've got the foot on the throat of this key arterial route for global energy. Of course they have leverage. And therefore, with nuclear at the centre of this, with the time available, it's very unlikely that President Trump will be able to negotiate a better deal than that happened in 2015. And of course, Iran has a few aces here. So they almost certainly claim you've got to unfreeze some of our 100 billion of assets and get rid of some of the sanctions. Well, of course, President Trump's never going to do that because that's a backward step from the policy he ripped up as soon as he took office in 2018. The third option is he just walks away. And I think what we're seeing here is potentially the prelude to him just walking away, claiming he's got victory. He's put back Iran's nuclear program. He's stopped them delivering the weapons. He's not a threat to his neighbours anymore. And therefore, he walks away, leaves the Straits of Hormuz for the Europeans to negotiate rather than fight their way to opening. It'd be a very unsatisfactory end.
You're a military man. I'm not. Just answer me this if you can. Did nobody in the American administration have the foresight to work out that the Straits of Hormuz would, in fact, be blockaded? Well, I mean, we had a cabinet minister over the weekend say that Britain faces 8 months of economic pain after the war ends. That was Darren Jones, but maybe, I don't know. I mean, the reality is people are struggling right now. Did nobody in the American administration go, by the way, whatever we say we're going to do, they're going to block the Straits of Hormuz?
Well, Jeremy, it won't be a surprise to you. I mean, when we used to do war games. So if Russia was our main threat, we would do war games when I was in the MOD about how such that war might play out, make sure we got the right kit and equipment or whatever. We've war gamed in the past this whole scenario against Iran. And indeed, I have played Iran in that war game. And it's not difficult to see what happens. Iran gets pummeled militarily by the American conventional forces. But the one area that you cannot wrestle from it is the Strait of Hormuz. And it puts a chokehold on this core arterial route. So it's not a surprise. It's one of the reasons why successive presidents have chosen not to take military action because they know how it'll play out. President Trump claimed that he was being the brave one and doing it. But of course, where we find ourselves now is entirely predictable. But the challenge, of course, now is how do you... We can't change history. We are where we are. How do you navigate a way to opening it up? Luckily, Iran is just as motivated as the West to get opened up again. What we need to do is get American military influence out of the way so that diplomacy can take its course.
Good man. Thank you, Sean. Only a quickie this morning, but great to get an update from you. Military analyst, the best in the business, Sean Bell, there on Talk Breakfast 25 to 8. Let's cross to Westminster. Shadow Secretary of State for Defence. We say a very good morning. James Cartledge. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you? Good morning. Good to see you.
Yeah, great. I'm going to try and be calm, but I'm not, James, because we can talk about Trump, we can talk about America, we can talk about Starmer, but I was talking to Poppy Coburn from The Telegraph from the first hour. I have to say this. I think this Troubles bill is one of the most disgusting pieces of legislation, and I'm not... I don't... If it was your party, any party...
Yeah.
This, and your leader, Kevin Redknapp, has today called on Labour MPs to revolt over his vindictive Northern Ireland Troubles bill. Explain this to me in layperson's terms. See, I'm becoming politically correct. I didn't say layman's. How can we say to men and women who donned a uniform and did what they were demanded to do by the politicians of the time, thank you so much indeed for putting your life on the line, but 30 years later, wherever you're sitting in retirement, there might be a knock on the door and we might send you to prison. And by the way, just to rub salt into the wounds, James, we're going to give complete immunity to the IRA. I'm 60. I remember what went on. How disgusting is this piece of legislation? Seriously.
Well, you've said it. You've hit the nail on the head in every way. We have opposed this with every ounce of strength we've had as an opposition. We have raised it every single oral questions since the election. We've held countless debates on it. We have opposed with vigour, and actually some of that pressure has paid off. But what we really want to see is the bill scrapped, not just amendments tabled to it. And so today we'll be voting against, and we're calling on Labour MPs to rebel. You know, as you say, this is a fundamental moment. We have war on two fronts. We have got to be serious about defence. We need to rearm. We need to recruit into our armed forces. The message must be the government has the back of those who serve, whereas in reality, they're bringing forward legislation that will once again see former veterans of our armed forces, prosecuted potentially just for the crime of serving their country. It's absolutely shameful. It is driven by this extraordinary ideology that the likes of the Attorney General Lord Hermer believe in. They're clearly ashamed of our history. Well, we're not. We're very proud. I'm proud to wear this badge, which I was given in Parliament by the veterans who will be in Westminster, I hope, today. We need to all stand together, regardless of politics, and say enough is enough. Stop persecuting our veterans.
Couldn't agree anymore. And just to give you, I'll ask you in a sec, ashamed of our history, the ideology. Today there's a front page of the Telegraph. Hermer insulted war heroes. Emails obtained by the Telegraph show the Attorney General Lord Hermer telling human rights lawyers they had done more good for society than the decorated soldiers they had falsely accused of murder and torture. I should point out his office have denied those claims. But here's the thing I want to ask you. You're an intelligent man, right?
It's very kind of you.
No, but I've got people this morning saying these Labour MPs, this government, this is treacherous. They're traitors. People go to war when they're told by the politicians. So if suddenly 30 years down the line, this government with its ideology thinks that we shouldn't have done that, should they not be prosecuting the politicians who made the decision at that time to send our armed forces to, if they're so into that? But it just is, to me, it beggars belief the way they're treating our armed forces. It really does. Beggars belief.
So to give you, what is the practical effect that this legislation will have? So there's a really good, very serious example. So if this legislation goes through, it's very likely that the inquest into what happened in a place called Clonard in Northern Ireland back in 1987 will once again be resurrected. In this case, you had the IRA were going to blow up a police station. They had Kalashnikovs. They had very powerful explosives, but the SAS were in waiting. They shot them. And, so that would be those SAS veterans on trial, essentially, decades later, for something that happened in split seconds, where what they were doing was defending all of us from terrorism. It beggars belief, but in particular, Jeremy, it beggars belief to be doing this when we need our military more than ever. What kind of a signal does it send? It is baffling. I find it absolutely staggering. I think there are some Labour MPs who know deep down that this is wrong, whose electorate think this is wrong, and I just say to them, for crying out loud, can we not all see the damage this is doing to morale? Because this isn't just about veterans, as important as that is. It's about the signal it sends to those who serve today, because we have been contacted by representatives of those who serve today who are thinking, What if they go to Ukraine in a peacekeeping mission? Should we one day, and I hope we do, have peace there? What happens if they get into some kind of firefight with, the so-called little green men who Putin might send over to cause trouble? What will they be taken to court under the ECHR? Who knows where this will all end up? We have to send a signal that we will not be pursuing those who serve their country. We will stand by them, and that's why we will be doing everything possible to.
An absolute fair play to the Tory party, and Badenoch and you, James, for this, because the thing is, you're right. Who would join the army if that's the reality? Man or woman? But all of it, I'm old, right? Ashamed of our history. Any country, any individual, any organisation, any company can look at things they've got wrong. But we seem to be in the grip of an ideology and a government, and actually an ideology that says, almost everything that came in the past is wrong, and we are going to wipe clean all of that, whilst fundamentally ignoring or missing what the hell's going on right now with the very people who phone me up every day and say, what about potholes? What about the lack of military? What about I'm a farmer who's being screwed? What about the fact I can't afford to put fuel in my car to drive as a self-employed salesperson or whatever? It's just, I do find that the war thing abhorrent. I really do.
And Jeremy, what fundamentally are our values? For me, one of those is that I look to those who serve, and I think to myself, they're doing enough as it is. They're going out there bravely putting their life on the line as it is. To go out and serve your country and then be scared of being taken to court by your own government for doing it decades later, that is totally unacceptable. We're talking about the bravest of the brave. We're talking about the people who fought in the Falklands in 1982. That extraordinary feat of arms where, they marched in freezing conditions. They yomped, as it was known at the time, and brought a great victory of which we're proud. But those are people who, and we lost a number of them, of course. I think 250 odd. It's extraordinary sacrifice, terrible injuries suffered as well.
Sir Galahad, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember Goose Green, I remember all of that. And people will go, the Falklands. No, I love your comment quickly, Jones, before we let you go. This wasn't on my sheet, but I read this over the weekend. There's a guy who's the Armed Forces Minister. Is it Al Cairns or Cairns?
So Al Cairns, who is the Armed Forces Minister and was previously a senior officer in the Royal Marines. Interestingly, today, on the day that this bill is being voted upon, he's nowhere to be seen. He's travelling abroad. Many people have said that he is against this piece of legislation, has been on resignation watch, and many are saying he could well be a stalking horse against Keir Starmer. I think it's quite interesting that the man who should be behind this legislation is going to be nowhere near the House of Commons today, my friend. Well, look, I can't speak for Labour defence ministers. When I was defence minister, I did travel a lot because you have to. But look, this is so critical, this legislation. If anyone, whether Al Cairns or any other Labour MP or any MP on the other side of the House, shares, as I do, their horror at this legislation, the idea of saying to those who serve our country, you know what? We're still going to go after you. Your own country that sent you, that gave you those orders, we're still going to go after you. If anyone's going to vote for that, they need to know the consequences of it. And I appeal to those who are thinking of rebelling. It's the right thing to do. Today is the day to do the right thing, and that's back those who serve.
As Linda in Stalybridge just says, please say this to James Cartledge. I hope to God that Starmer doesn't have the nerve to stand at the cenotaph on Remembrance Day.
Well, it's a fair point. I mean, look, that's the point, isn't it? What is this ultimately about? This is about honouring those who are prepared to serve their country and make the ultimate sacrifice. People who are willing to do that have enough stress to deal with. It's not an easy life being in the military. What they need to know is that the country's got their back. And they're going to be scratching their heads and wondering if that's the case if this legislation comes forward. So today we vote on a carryover motion which will take the Northern Ireland Troubles Bill into the next session of Parliament after the King's speech in May. We think that shouldn't happen. It's a great chance for the bill to be dropped, to leave this all alone, let the past be the past, move forward as a country, and let's get back to strengthening our armed forces to face up to the very serious threats we've got on multiple fronts.
Listen, more strength to you, Kemi, and the party, because I genuinely mean this. I think that is something that will resonate with millions of people across this country who are sick to death of the apologists that we've become. James, great to have you on. Good luck today in the vote. James Cartledge, MP, Shadow Secretary of State for Defence, talking about that disgusting piece of legislation, the Troubles Bill that this government are bringing in, which is basically going to allow the prosecution of men and women who served in Northern Ireland 30 years ago, whilst giving full immunity to the IRA. I mean, listen, if you disagree, I'd love to hear from you, and I mean that genuinely, but I have so many veterans, So many veterans on this show just saying, Jez, why did I put my neck on the line? To be sat in retirement at the age of 70, wondering if I'm going to be prosecuted. It's nuts. Don't forget, by the way, biggest national fuel protest in 20 years taking place this morning. In the next hour, Samara Gill will be live from Westminster. Good morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean from Grimsby here. With the assassination of Donald Trump, once again, it's another deranged leftist who thinks, oh, well, he doesn't think like me, he doesn't believe the things what I believe, so I'll kill him. It's very National Socialist behaviour. You know, the left's got a massive problem. We've seen it in this country. And we're the problem. You couldn't make it up, mate. Great show.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
So you go away and you come back, somebody's got a new show, has got a new name for it. So he's got an evening exchange. Kev's got what? What's Kev got? He's got a political asylum. Ian's got a nation. It's all going on, isn't it? We just got a breakfast show. 0344 419 1000. Text to 87222. 30 minutes to 8. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in. You're waking up to the news. Third attempt on Donald Trump's life. But the King's visit will go ahead to DC later today in Westminster. Starmer really under the cosh because he's being attacked by his own backbenchers, by his cabinet. The sleaze inquiry hovers over him today. The Metropolitan Police have decided they're going to question his officials over Morgan McSweeney's missing phone. I want to talk Royals now. So much has surrounded this trip to the United States by King Charles. It starts later today. We say a very good morning. Always a pleasure. Quality man. What colour will the shirt be? Former Press Secretary to the Queen and former it's green. Former Royal Journalist Dickie Arbiter. Morning, old boy. How are you?
Morning, Jeremy. Hi. Did you have a good holiday?
Oh, God, honestly, you lot, yes, thank you. He's making me feel guilty now. The amount of time you have off, man. What's going on? Anyway, listen, initially, I'd love your thoughts. The visit of His Majesty the King and Queen Camilla to the US, to DC, starting today, goes ahead, despite that shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the attempt on Donald Trump's life, and actually Trump hailing the King as very brave for going ahead with it, Dickie.
Yes, he is. Let's look at it quite broadly. If you go back to 1960, late Queen went to Ghana amid threats of bombing campaign. There'd already been bombs there, but she went there because it was about getting Ghana on side with the West, with the United Kingdom in terms of business and trade, because they were being wooed by the then Soviet Union. It went ahead. It was highly successful. The Queen went to Zambia in 1979 to the CHOGM conference. There again, there were bombs. There were threats from Zimbabwe, when it was then Rhodesia, bombing various terrorist camps, but it went ahead. This one has to go ahead. It is going ahead. The mantra of Buckingham Palace, keep calm and carry on.
I mean, Trump hails him as brave. The visit, we hear, has been adjusted after that gunman stormed the dinner. But, I mean, given that shooting, there surely is an increased risk to our monarch, isn't there?
There's always a risk to the monarch. Even when the king goes walkabout in the United Kingdom, there's always a risk. Yes, there are security services out there are armed police out there, but there is nevertheless a risk. That goes with the territory, it goes with the job. I think they're probably scaling back any idea of a walkabout, particularly in New York. I think he was going up to Harlem to meet community leaders. That might be a big question mark as to whether that goes ahead, but it will be assessed on the day, at the time, not just by State Department, but by our own security services as to whether it happens.
Obviously, don't need to get you political, but we all know over the last few months the so-called special relationship, certainly between the two leaders of our respective nations, Donald Trump and Sir Keir Starmer, hasn't and isn't, excuse me, at its greatest point. And many people have said that this visit, you know, this is the moment whereby the king will be able to smooth the passage. And I wanted to ask you, because I always get people saying, come on, get the king involved. And I try and explain, Dickie, about a constitutional monarch, but I want to turn this as a positive into the monarchy, because there's a lot of detractors at the moment with everything that's gone on with Andrew and Harry and Meghan. This sort of trip is absolutely what makes, I think, the monarchy so important to this country. And for people who don't understand it, this 4 days, probably by saying and doing certain things we don't know, will do more for our special relationship than any politician can do in 10 years, won't it?
You're absolutely right. This is soft diplomacy at its best. This is soft diplomacy that no politician could ever achieve. Even diplomats fail to achieve that. Trump is enamored by the monarchy. He's enamored by the king. He's had 2 state visits, more than any other president. So he's pulling out all stops. He's going to make the king feel very welcome. Hopefully, the king will be able to smooth ruffled feathers in terms of relationship between Trump as a head of state, a head of government, and our own head of government. But, you know, the government is fractured, the relationship is fractured, and it's going to take all the king's willpower and all the king's know-how to get the two of them together, because things are wrong and things shouldn't be wrong, because, yes, the United States is our closest ally. There is a special relationship, whether it is fractured between governments or not.
I couldn't agree more, and it'll be very interesting. We'll cover this, of course, on Talk over the next few days, but don't, peeps, and I completely agree with Dickie, don't ever underestimate. I understand the knock and the desire for more transparency, but don't ever underestimate the importance of a trip like this, because, as Dickie says, soft diplomacy is a massively important thing. Dickie, a couple of other things. While I was away, there was this sort of footage of Sarah Ferguson, an Australian sort of clinic bolt hole at $2,000 a night, looking very pale, and sunglasses and pulled back hair. Apparently she's desperately phoning around her wealthy friend. She's probably been on to you, looking for somewhere else to stay after the bolt hole was found. Has she been on the phone to you, Dickie, eh?
No, what the Times what Talk Radio pay me, I couldn't even afford to buy a thimble for her. But no, I think she's pretty desperate. It's a bit rich when you are short of money that you are lashing out that sort of money in an expensive spa resort. You'd think she'd cut her coat according to her cloth, but no, that's never Sarah Ferguson. She likes to overspend. She probably is phoning friends. She might well run out of friends because they're not getting anything in return, and people always like a bit of a return for the money that they're dishing out.
That's why we pay you. We're looking for return, Dickie. We expect you to up your game. But no, it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously and patently she was staying there. I mean, I read it at the time, you know, PR. Oh, she's doing that. She wants to keep out of the way because she's worried about her daughters and she's worried about her grandchildren. Well, you took your daughters to a paedophile's house or island. So, you know, let's talk about what you're thinking now against what you're thinking. The thing that's interesting about Fergie, and you touched upon it brilliantly, is her oxygen is publicity. Her oxygen is being loved and wanted and needed and being in the public eye. And I imagine this time is particularly difficult. I still think, I don't care what anybody says, I still think she'll do a massive TV expose interview. She's got nothing to lose. I genuinely believe that'll happen.
Yeah, you're probably right. But where's she going to do it? She's not going to go to the United States because the American Justice Department want to talk to her. And if she doesn't go there, where are they going to talk to her? I think it's probably on the cards. Don't hold your breath. It's not going to be immediate, but it might well happen.
I can see somebody like Oprah doing it. I'm being serious. I really can.
You're probably right. She's done Oprah before, and she is desperate for money. But, you know, as far as Sarah's concerned, all she's interested in is number one, and number one to her is Sarah. The children and the grandchildren come off second, and the ex-husband is the ex-husband. It's a very sad, sorry state of affairs. It is desperation, and it appears that she'll do anything for money.
No change there. Now, I want us to, we've only got 2 minutes, but I want us to be sympathetic, Dickie, all right? Because Meghan has suggested that the hardest 7 years of her life are coming to an end as she shares personal horoscope posts on Instagram, honest to God. The hardest 7 years of her life. Does that woman know what hard is? She's spoken to her father or her family. Oh, it does my head in. Hardest 7 years.
She certainly hasn't spoken to her father. She's allegedly supposed to have written to him. He's had a leg amputated. He's had heart problems. Has she been to see him? No. Let's not forget, Meghan is an actor. And actors like to dramatise life. She said last week in Australia that she was the most trolled person in the world. Really?
Well, stop putting your kids on Instagram then. Turn off Instagram, turn off X. I can't have it with people when they say that.
Well, they left the United Kingdom because they wanted to escape publicity, but they've been seeking publicity ever since. So what does she want? She wants fame, she wants fortune, she wants money. And she'll do anything to get it. A bit like Fergie, actually.
It's interesting, isn't it, that? I always said that. I had a little bit of respect when they said we want to get out of this goldfish bowl. We don't want anything to do it. We're in love. We want to bring our kids up in thingy. Brilliant. You land in America, you sign a $117 million deal with Spotify, and every part of your being is then broadcast across the world, and you can tell it's her oxygen. What does she say? Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, ending the hardest 7 years of their lives on April the 25th. I just find it utterly astonishing, having been brought up as a royalist with the old man, to think that a duchess is selling jam in America and thinks that's what the world's come to.
Yeah, well, let's not forget, first and foremost, she's an actor. She's a duchess by marriage. She's not a duchess by birth. I've said my piece.
You've said your piece. Just quickly, 35 seconds, you imagine it will be a successful visit of the King to DC?
I think it will be very successful, not just to DC, but to New York and to Virginia. It will be very successful, and it will get good coverage, both by us on Talk, as well as in newspapers and television.
Good man. We love having you on, pal. Thank you so much indeed. Former press secretary to the Queen and former royal journalist, the excellent Dickie Arbiter. Almost 8 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. Talk Breakfast is on in the next hour. It's going to be a corker. We'll start with Isabel Oakeshott. We'll go live to that fuel protest with Samara Gill as well. All of that and Jack Elsom. 0344 499 1000 for your telephone calls and your voice notes. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. News at 8 next.
The handover briefing I was getting as I arrived at post was what I felt was a generally dismissive attitude to his vetting clearance. The focus was on getting Mandelson out to Washington quickly. Despite this atmosphere, an atmosphere of pressure, the department completed developed vetting to the normal high standard. Because the vetting process is not there to determine fitness for office or reputational risk, it's there to protect national security.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. This is Talk Breakfast at home, of course, of Common Sense. It's where your views on the day's news are very welcome because Alarm Clock Brits, it's down to you. 0344 499 1000 is our telephone number. Leave the voice note. You can text 87222. Start your message with the word Talk. What are you waking up to on Monday the 27th of April? Well, of course, in America, that White House Correspondents' Dinner saw the third attempt on, of course, Donald Trump's life. Cole Thomas Allen, a 31-year-old Californian teacher, breached security. Shots were heard. The president was dragged out. The king, actually, and Queen Camilla, due in America today. Some debate, but the trip will go ahead. We just heard from Dickie Arbiter. Soft diplomacy, massively important as the special relationship is, by all accounts, fractured. The king will go there with Camilla. We'll keep you updated throughout the day. Many people contacting the show and saying, you know, we talk about far-right thuggery. This is left-wing thuggery at its worst. Loads of response to America on the way at home. Oh, God. He's waking up in Downing Street, and honestly, to say the vultures are circling over Starmer's head would be an understatement. Police, overnight, announcing they're preparing to question officials over Morgan McSweeney. Do you remember him, the Chief of Staff? His phone went missing. Well, he had two. One went missing. That was the one that had the important messages on. Oh, and that one wasn't backed up. But it went missing. But when he phoned the police, he didn't say it was Morgan McSweeney, and he didn't actually say where he was. Yeah, no wonder you've got your head in your hands, Starmer. MPs are annoyed. Cabinet ministers are plotting. Rayner and Burnham could be the dream ticket. But most of all, for a man who went on and on and on about Boris Johnson and sleaze, and the sleaze inquiry that he pushed for that ultimately caused the end of Boris Johnson's political career. He's been accused of breaking ministerial codes. There's a sleaze inquiry hovering. He's basically failed to declare a visit to the headquarters of a tech firm in Washington, D.C. called Palantir, and it turns out that they were a company linked to Lord Mandelson's lobbying firm. Ha-ha! Surprise. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Later on, outside the House of Parliament, the biggest national fuel protest in 20 years takes place. Protesters from all walks of life, in terms of farmers, lorry drivers, tradesmen, demanding that the Chancellor of the Exchequer takes action to tackle out-of-control fuel prices. I'm going to give you that as well, dear boy. You're very kind. We'll see what happens. Samara Gill will be our reporter. She'll be there live as well. Jay, what do you make of this fuel situation, Jay?
Hello, Jeremy. This war on the motorists drives me absolutely mad. As a small business, you know, if I buy another vehicle, I have to pay 20% VAT tax on it. I then phone or go online. I then have to tax it on the road tax. I then phone up my insurance company and I have to pay insurance premium tax on it. I then go to the garage, put 100 quid's worth of diesel in, and out of that £100, I'm actually only getting 30 quid's worth of diesel. The rest of it, the other 70 quid is tax. My God, and then I'm going out to work, then I pay tax on my earnings. It's just like I'm taxed to death. Just ain't getting anywhere. Working harder, putting in more hours, not getting anywhere.
I don't want to upset you, Jay, but whilst I was away, I saw something that Farage said, and this has to be the truest thing from my point of view that I've heard in a long, long time. We've got to a point, have we not, where the divide in this country, very soon, if not already here, is between those who work and those who don't. And before people jump up and down and say, no, I get it. If you're a carer, if you're disabled, if you're genuinely mentally ill, I'm really happy to go to work to pay for you. But you have to accept those people, the genuine ones, are missing out because people are gaming the system. People are choosing not to work. People are feckless and lazy, and we are being taxed to the hilt in almost everything, be it fuel or food or personal tax. For what? To make sure that people take advantage, be they the feckless and lazy, be they illegal migrants. It's a fact. We've got to a point in this country where we are not only apologising for everything we've ever done, seemingly saying to, you know, the population, the people who pay their stamp, thanks for doing your life correctly. Thanks ever so much for being, you know, law-abiding and hard-working. We're going to absolutely screw you. And I think people have had enough. 0344 499 1000. It's been 2 weeks. I've missed her. I've missed her so much I didn't even think I could handle it. Isabel Oakeshott, good morning.
Good morning. You're looking very bronzed. Is it a matter of public record where you've been, or is that a secret?
You tell them. I went to see Isabel in the UAE. She didn't want to let it out, did she? Because she thought Richard wouldn't like it. But that's the truth, isn't it?
Well, what I can tell you about the Tice Oakeshott household this morning is there's much excitement because the Tice man is heading off the fuel protest.
Good.
Complete with the extraordinary luxurious vehicles that, you know, every girl wants when they're going to get married to a guy.
Attractive.
He had a reform-themed bus and a reform-themed taxi. What more could a girl want?
I'll tell you what, mate. I told you last week. I'm joking. No, I was in Portugal. It was very nice. And I also took the kids to Euro Disney, which was horrific. But there we go.
Oh, really? I love that place. That's all right.
I just worry about genuinely what seems to be mature adults walking around with ears on, taking pictures of their teddy bears in front of fountains and being really serious about it. It worries me. But anyway, listen, so much to talk about. We'll talk about the fuel protests in a tick. Let's start, of course, with the big news over the weekend, that White House Correspondents' Dinner, the third attempt on Donald Trump's life. Cole Thomas Allen, the 31-year-old Californian teacher, breached security, got very close to those doors, could have come through. The president was taken out, Melania was taken out, J.D. Vance. Questions being asked about how he got so close, security, etc., etc. But a powerful reminder again, Isabel, about how split the United States is. And a lot of people contacting us this morning and saying, we always hear about the far right and the thuggery and the violence, and nobody condones that. But actually, the left are no better. And this is a prime example, we suspect.
Well, yes. I mean, one of the most moving images from those shocking scenes was actually Erica Kirk, the late Charlie Kirk's wife, being rushed out of the venue, and she was sobbing and saying, "I just want to go home." I mean, how utterly traumatic must it have been for her to be in that place, you know, hearing gunshots, and yet again an attempted assassination only a matter of months after her husband was killed, again, you know, by far left forces. This was shocking. I've been to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It is an enormous event, absolutely enormous. I mean, unless you're, you know, one of the gilded few, you're nowhere near the president. So, you know, I don't know the mechanics of how the gunman got where he did, but I do remember security being pretty tight, actually. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions to be asked.
There was a really unfortunate clip. Caroline Levitt, the press secretary to the president, literally before what happened. This was an interview she gave, an off-the-cuff remark, but somebody's picked this up. Have a listen to this.
It'll be funny, it'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room, so everyone should tune in. It's going to be really great. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Wow. Didn't turn out to be the best thing to say, Isabel.
Oh, poor her. I mean, I think she does an incredible job, you know, under impossible circumstances, you know, with a boss who is so volatile, so mercurial. You know, one day you're defending something, the next day he's changed his mind. He was very rude about her a few weeks ago, and I thought it was appalling. I think she does an absolutely amazing, outstanding job. It's just figurative speech, wasn't it? Of course.
Of course it was. Of course it was. Interestingly, I don't know if you saw this. The gunman, 31-year-old California teacher Cole Thomas Allen, sent an email to his siblings, which has been released by the authorities, sort of outlining what he thought about the administration. He used the word paedophile, he used the word rapist. And lo and behold, don't know why I took the interview, Donald Trump then decided to appear on 60 Minutes, where they read Cole Thomas Allen's manifesto to him. They didn't name him, but the intimation was there. Some reaction from the Donald. Watch this, peeps.
I knew you would, because you're horrible people. Horrible people. Yeah, he did write that. I'm not a rapist. I didn't rape anybody.
You think he was referring to you?
Excuse me. I'm not a pedophile. You read that crap from some sick person. I got associated with all stuff that has nothing to do with me. I was totally exonerated. Your friends on the other side of the plate are the ones that were involved with, let's say, Epstein or other things. But I said to myself, you know, I'll do this interview and they'll probably, I read the manifesto, you know, he's a sick person, but you should be ashamed of yourself reading that, because I'm not any of those things.
Mr. President,
and I was never, excuse me. You shouldn't be reading that on 60 Minutes. You're a disgrace. But go ahead. Let's finish the interview.
The other thing that he wrote...
I'm really interested in your opinion, Isabel. What do you make of a journalist who read that out?
I actually think that we should not be amplifying or giving a platform to the rantings of would-be assassins and mad people. It only encourages more such events. I thought that the president, you know... He'd had a shocking experience, yet another. Yeah. And I thought he handled it really well. You know, say what you like about Trump, and I've got some very, very serious reservations about him. He speaks plainly, doesn't he? And that actually is quite refreshing from where we sit. And I hope we're going to move on to UK politics, because there's so much to talk about.
We are. I just want to touch upon the fact that the King, of course, and Queen Camilla due to arrive in America today for a 4-day tour. That goes ahead. Many of the papers, the Mail, King keeps calm and carries on. No doubt there'll be a risk, but they say UK. Security will be heightened and we will keep you updated. Yes, I got to 6:23 this morning without mentioning Starmer. Just as an overview, up a creek without a paddle. Where do we start? Oh, yes. Police are preparing to question Downing Street officials over the phone that went missing. That was the one that wasn't backed up with the messages that he'd forgotten to save. That is one hell of a dodgy story, and just the beginning of Keir Starmer's troubles. Backbenchers up in arms, Rayner and Burnham collaborating allegedly, and also, here's the irony, the sleaze inquiry, Isabel, for all that he used to say about Bojo, eh?
Unbelievable. So it looks very much as if the next, how many times have we said this, by the way? The next 2 or 3 weeks will be critical for Keir Starmer. I mean, I do feel that if he somehow brazens it out beyond the May elections, then perhaps those who were briefing over the weekend that for Angela Rayner it's now or never might be right. You know, it's always been clear this guy has no intention whatsoever of stepping down without being absolutely forced out. And I think his enemies have got to strike pretty soon, because once you get beyond this big hurdle, which is the expected disastrous results of the May elections, you know, you're soon enough into summer, and then it's the party conference, and then, you know, the clock keeps ticking. So I feel this is the critical point. He's so obviously unre-electable at a general election. They must all know that. Of course, they all do know that. And so they've got to crack on. I mean,
but this is the interesting thing about politics, isn't it? Because also tomorrow we had Ollie, what was it? What's his sec? I can't remember. Ollie Robbins sticking the knife in last week and saying he'd lied. Tomorrow, Morgan McSweeney, I lost my phone, and ex-Foreign Office Chief Sir Philip Barton will answer questions in front of the Foreign Affairs Committee. Are they going to turn on Starmer? And I keep watching these people do it, and all I can think in my head, and you'd know far more than me, is he holding back his big threat, which is if you lot try and get rid of me, I'll call an election, you'll all lose your seats, and I'll head off into retirement with my PM's pension and won't give a stuff.
Well, I mean, that's the last thing, isn't it? It's the last throw of the dice. It's the most powerful thing he's got. I don't really think it's a credible threat. I don't think he would do it because he knows there's not a real excuse to do so. You know, what would be the excuse except complete and utter petulance? It's not like there's some kind of...
That's what Rishi Sunak did.
Yeah, it kind of is, and it didn't really work out very well, did it, for any of them? I don't know. I think the other thing I really want to talk about before you get rid of me, Jeremy.
I'd never get rid of you.
Is this everyday case after case of asylum seekers committing crimes in our country? And one story that I think will be really exercising our listeners this morning is that story of the 14-year-old who raped a girl, and he's an asylum seeker, and what he gets is a rap over the knuckles and some educational course in the importance of consent. This coming hot on the heels of probably the most outrageous, disgusting, shocking, abhorrent case I have heard involving asylum seekers last week. I don't know whether you tapped into it because I know you were away, but there were 3 asylum seekers who were convicted of a gang rape, the details of which are not for consumption on a Monday morning. But, you know, how much more can our country take of this? You know, I put on social media over the weekend, I am sick of hearing people saying, oh, but white British people do awful things too. Yes, of course, every society creates and produces monsters. Every society produces monsters. Not every society spends billions of pounds importing them. That's the difference.
I completely agree. And, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? We'll get to a point where there are different stories every single day, be it the veterans thing, which is winding me up hysterically today because I think it's disgusting. Trump, the King, Starmer. Migration, we never wanted to get illegal migration to a point where, oh, it just happens. But you're absolutely right. I read that story last week with disbelief. I don't understand. If you stand in front of politicians on the left, they'll say, well, you know, if he goes back to his own country, he'll be dealt with strongly. Good. If you are going to allow unvetted men to come from other cultures where they have a different view, a misogynistic view, many would say, about women, and generally no respect, then you are asking for trouble. And whenever I have this debate, Isabel, you're exactly right, those do-gooders will say to me, but, you know, either they're coming from war-torn countries or, as you just said, there are bad white men as well. Yeah, there are. But don't exaggerate the problem by being so lax. I don't understand it. Talked about it for months and months and months. We are pathetically weak, and we need somewhere to find somebody with the backbone to say, I'm doing this, there will be 50% of this country that won't like it. Look at the Greens. I mean, the whole thing's a disaster, but hopefully we find that person. I don't know. It's shameful. It's utterly shameful. Utterly.
Just to pick up on that point about people fleeing war and terror, of which there are some, without a doubt, and we've spoken to them in the camps of Dunkirk. And the problem with that is, yeah, they've got a case, you know, although there's no war and terror in France. But the problem is that we are welcoming in a certain group of people who are incredibly traumatized and desensitized to extreme violence. That is just the reality. I know this because we've engaged with these people. We've seen the awful pictures of violence on their mobile phones.
Absolutely.
And another case in point is actually Axel Rudikabana's family, who were fleeing supposedly the genocide in Rwanda, and that was generational trauma. You know, that was very much part of that family's story, the violence, the horror. We know this from what came out after the Southport disaster. So yes, some people coming our way genuinely are fleeing war and terror, but are we making the right judgments about accepting all of those people? We don't want to import people who are mentally...
I don't understand that. I don't understand. This is where I end up sort of combusting. The sense, or even I don't understand anybody that would say, I'll tell you what, let's bring people into our country that we don't know anything about, who have no respect for whatever the rules or laws are in this country, and then apparently we're surprised. And then what we're going to do is we're going to charge taxpayers to find them a lawyer, to find some pitiful excuse to allow them to get away with deplorable crime. It is beyond... It is... And you know what? It isn't just this government, and that's a difficult thing to say, but it's true. This has been going on for too bloody long. It is a national embarrassment. I couldn't agree with you anymore. How is everything with you, though? You're all right?
So here in the Middle East, things are weirdly, my particular part of it in the UAE, we haven't had any missile attacks or any attempted drone attacks for 2 or 3 weeks now, which is wonderful. But I am acutely aware that just across the water from where I'm sitting, there's still a massive problem in the Straits of Hormuz. And in fact, no one's really talking about this, but the US has been sending a lot of extra men, women and kit to the region. 3 carrier strike groups is unprecedented since the war in Iraq. So, you know, is that just optionality, or is there something much bigger around the corner? I don't know. I'm not even sure Donald Trump knows. But we can't completely imagine that this has all gone away. It hasn't.
We will certainly keep everybody up to date, and thank you so much indeed. You're amazing. We love having you on the show. The wonderful Isabel Oakeshott, live from the UAE. Why is it this moment that my voice decides to go? At 8:23, it's that moment, if you're a regular to the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. Young Oliver and young Rissy are in the car. Ollie, going back to school today, probably doesn't want to go, but I love you, mate. Have a good day. I'll speak to you later. Rissy Roo as well, and my gorgeous wife. Morning, Sean.
Morning, Jeremy. Sean in Leicester. As a veteran and a family of veterans, I used to always encourage my boy when he was growing up to join the army. And thankfully, and it pains me to say this, thankfully he has chosen not to follow in his dad's footsteps. What is happening to forces people, veterans people, is absolutely outrageous. How can they come after people like me who served in Northern Ireland and then let the IRA out? I can't get my head around it. Anyway, great show, buddy.
handover briefing I was getting as I arrived at post was what I felt was a generally dismissive attitude to his vetting clearance. The focus was on getting Mandelson out to Washington quickly. Despite this atmosphere, an atmosphere of pressure, the department completed developed vetting to the normal high standard. Because the vetting process is not there to determine fitness for office or reputational risk, it's there to protect national security.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:26. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Talk Breakfast. You're waking up to the news about Donald Trump, third attempt in his life. At the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the King's visit with Queen Camilla goes ahead under heightened security. Starmer, the vultures are circling. So much going on, including in the newspapers today, lots about the Troubles Bill. This faces a vote in the Commons today. This is the bill that seemingly allows this government to terrorise, excuse the pun, ex-forces, men and women who served in Northern Ireland 30 years ago, who are likely and possibly will be prosecuted for what they did, despite the fact they were sent to war. Well, not war, you know, they were sent into the Troubles, whilst giving immunity, my friends, to the IRA. This morning on the front of the Telegraph, Hermer insulted war heroes. This is the Attorney General. He denies that. His office contacted us this morning to say he denies that. But Hermer and Starmer seem utterly intent on attacking our veterans, which has gone down quite rightly like a lead balloon. Jack Elson, it's been a long time. The political editor of The Sun has been writing about this. Where have you been, my boy? Where have you been?
Oh, Jeremy, I've been here, there and everywhere. We've got local elections coming up, so I've been on the campaign trail with various party leaders and bringing that information to the good readers of The Sun. But happy to talk to you, as always. I've missed you. How have you been?
I've been on holiday. I thought you were going to have a go at me. Everybody else has.
Anywhere nice?
Not where you went. I went to Euro Disney with two kids and a wife, and then I
couldn't think of anything worse.
Yes, of course. But you're going through the beginnings of a relationship where you post pictures of drinking wine and going out for dinner. When you have children, you'll have no money, no sleep, and possibly not much else. Anyway, Jack, we can talk about Trump and Starmer, but I want to talk about this Veterans Bill because this to me, and Poppy Coburn was on with me in the first hour. I think this is a vile, disgusting piece of legislation. I don't understand how we have got to a point when we are saying to people, thank you for donning the uniform and sticking up for your country. And by the way, we were told to do that by politicians of the day. We're now possibly going to prosecute who was giving immunity to the IRA. I think this is absolutely abhorrent, Jack, genuinely.
Yeah, and I think that is the view of the vast majority of people in this country. And I think that Westminster is slowly waking up to that. I mean, I was on the campaign trail last week with various different politicians, and the amount of times that ordinary folk out there raised the treatment of our veterans, I hold my hands up, found staggering, because it is something which, when we're talking about all the sort of the processes with Peter Mandelson and various Westminster rows, often we can be totally guilty in the media of missing some of the massive issues out there. And that is definitely one of them, which is really cutting through with people. Not just the treatment of veterans, where often you have people who have served this country with distinction ending up on the streets homeless, but also, like you said, this issue which has been going on for many years now about veterans being hounded through the courts, totally exposed to vexatious claims by left-wing human rights lawyers. And the Tories trying to put an end to this in their Legacy Act by basically giving almost immunity to any more claims. Now, obviously, that got struck down by the courts, but rather than trying to emulate the immunity which the Tories wanted to give, Labour have once again gone down a path of exposing veterans to potential endless persecution. And I think you're right when you speak for people and say that actually, things should be investigated, but people shouldn't be open to endless claims, especially people who have put their lives on the line.
Let me read you something. This to me shapes how I see this. And we talked about earlier this morning how, if you write something that somebody disagrees with, you'll be arrested, but you can walk into a shop and nick £200 worth of stuff and nobody does anything. These people, right, joined up to serve Queen, now King and country. They were told, they were given orders, and now 30 years later, listen to Lawrence Elliott. Jez, I served 4 tours in Northern Ireland, my first in 1977. I helped a veteran who was hounded by the state. He was involved in an incident in Northern Ireland in 74, investigated twice and exonerated twice. They then had a third investigation that was a disgrace. Unfortunately, he died, I feel, as a result of the witch hunt. I was that disgusted, I recently returned all my medals to Parliament. My loyalty to this country and to the armed forces has gone. I'm sorry, probably going to get into trouble for what I'm going to say. I don't mean that as it sounds. So what we're saying is, whether you were in the Falklands or Northern Ireland, when somebody was lobbing a grenade at you or threatening to blow you up or shoot you, might have done something in a split second that 30 years later some would-be human rights lawyer is going to go, well, I don't think you should have done it. You should have sat down and had a chat. That is appalling. Appalling.
But also, it's not even just the self-contained scandal of various individuals being dragged through the courts on vexatious charges. What this also is going to have is real-world consequences about the state of our armed forces going forward.
Yeah.
Your caller just now, Steve, said that actually he is incredibly glad that his son is not going into the armed forces, and that is going to be the mindset of many people who otherwise would have joined up, are reading all of these stories, seeing the actions of government and lawyers and going, you know what, why would I bother? And at a time when we have such global instability and we need to actually grow our armed forces rather than shrinking it, we need to get to that 2.5% timeline. That is going to be very difficult if people are so reluctant to join up because they go, well, hang on a minute, if I even draw my weapon, then actually I might be hounded through the courts. And so it's not even just looking backwards, looking forwards as well. It's going to be incredibly damaging to the prospects of the military.
I'd love your take on this story that I sort of read about yesterday. It wasn't on my list this morning, but Al Cairns, whatever, the Armed Forces Minister, interestingly, will be absent, conspicuous by his absence today as this bill goes through Parliament. He's travelling abroad. That does happen in ministerial roles. But this guy was apparently, you'd know more than me, on resignation watch over this. This guy apparently was a decorated colonel and became a politician. Many people have described him as a potential stalking horse against Starmer. Do you think there's some fact in the fact that he's not around today for a piece of legislation that his department's been behind creating?
I think the important thing to say about Al Cairns, and I've met him on several occasions, is that he is genuinely a soldier first and a politician second. And so he will put the interests of the armed forces and his former colleagues,
he should resign, Jack, shouldn't he?
Above any party
Then he
politics.
should resign, shouldn't he?
Well, I think he's in a very tough position at the moment. I think clearly he is loath to support this bill. I think that he probably is incredibly uncomfortable with its passage going through Parliament. You're right, he is away at the moment. He says he's in government business, but, it is quite convenient. And you're right, we have seen that in the past, very convenient excuses to be able to miss tricky votes. You're right, he is being seen as a potential leader.
Oh, my God, look at that. Jack, sorry, while you're speaking on YouTube, no, we're showing pictures of Starmer having tea with veterans in the garden. It's just hypocrisy at its worst. I've had people this morning texting me, mate, going, I hope he doesn't have the gall to turn up at the Cenotaph in November.
Yeah, listen, clearly the veterans community are very angry at the moment. We saw that pretty excoriating statement last week by the SAS Regiment Association blasting the passage of this Northern Ireland Troubles Bill going through Parliament at the moment. And you know what? I think that the veterans vote is probably not something that Keir Starmer is going to be relying on.
Let's talk about what he can rely on, because the vultures are a-circling. We'll go through this very quickly because you're a busy man. Downing Street announcing overnight that the police are preparing to question officials over the phone from Morgan McSweeney. You know, he had two, but the one that went missing was the one that had the messages, and that one wasn't backed up. And he didn't tell them that he was the Chief of Staff, and he didn't give his location or his name. But it's all perfectly innocent, Jack Elsom.
Well, this is the massive problem for Keir Starmer now, is that because this scandal involving Peter Mandelson is so pervasive, it just has the ability to drag in everyone around it and also just run and run and run. And just when you think, or Keir Starmer thinks, that it is case closed and he has managed to sort of get rid of any sort of accusations here, something else pops up, and he is playing this never-ending game of whack-a-mole with various revelations in the Peter Mandelson scandal. We are going to have some real moments of reckoning this week, where not only do we have the prospect of Keir Starmer facing a sleaze inquiry for allegedly misleading the House, the Privileges Committee, which, ironically, for many people will be quite funny, because obviously that was the committee that investigated Boris Johnson, which Keir Starmer was so gung-ho about trying to needle away at. But also, we've got these massive testimonies tomorrow in the House of Commons, where Philip Barton, the former Foreign Office chief, is going to be giving evidence about supposedly the pressure which the government puts on the diplomatic service to get Peter Mandelson's appointment rushed through. And then we have the bombshell testimony, we think, of Morgan McSweeney, the former chief of staff, who took the fall for the Mandelson scandal a few months ago. Is he going to come back and knife his former boss to the extent where it is just curtains for Keir Starmer? I think that is what everyone is looking out for in the next few days. You know,
we are going to take that. We've decided. I haven't. We've decided we're going to take that. It's at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, peeps. So we're going to listen to Ward. Do you think, you're a political editor of the best newspaper in the land, do you think McSweeney will turn the screw, or do you think he'll be loyal in return for whatever he's going to get, a knighthood or something, I imagine?
To be honest, I think that Morgan McSweeney would not want to totally absorb all of the flack, but I can't see him turning on Starmer. To be honest, you know, we got a bit of a taste of it last week, where he was out in Ukraine. He was being asked about the decision. He said that it is his decision and he takes all of the blame for appointing Peter Mandelson. The problem is that the public just won't buy that. The public
but he also said that proper security vetting had taken place. He also said that he hadn't been to Plantier, a tech firm in Washington that was was a client of Mandelson's lobbying firm. He says an awful lot with the greatest of respect, which turns out to be utterly false, to be honest, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That's why it doesn't even really matter if Morgan McSweeney goes out there and is prepared to absorb all of the flack for Keir Starmer, his former boss, because in the minds of the public, it is Keir Starmer who leads this government, and it is Keir Starmer who has to take responsibility. He can't just keep chucking people under the bus. He's really run out of fall guys now.
Well, I was going to say, the only person who doesn't seem to have lost their job over the Mandelson debacle is actually Sir Keir Starmer, because he sacked everybody else. In terms of that, quickly, I know we've got the elections coming. We have to be very careful. We're in Purda. I'm not talking about results or whatever. I want to ask you, is he I mean, look, today it says it's not when, it's if. We've heard about, you know, apparently Angela, the HMRC that's on the way out. There've been Blair Brown-style pact between her and Burnham, Labour MPs. I mean, I said to Isabel, ultimately his number one power left, or only power left, is to say, right, I called an election like Sunak and you'll all lose your jobs. Is he a goner in your mind?
I think the only thing keeping him there, and this is often underestimated, is that many Labour MPs are terrified about the prospect of Angela Rayner becoming Prime Minister. Yes, she has a support base on the soft left of the Parliamentary Labour Party, enough to get her through to a vote by the Labour membership, in which they will almost certainly vote for her in their droves, because they are much more left-wing than not just the Parliamentary Labour Party, obviously the country as well. There does seem to be that inevitability now about some sort of challenge. I think the question, like you said, is when that happens. Will it happen straight after the local elections? Potentially not. Will it happen within the next year? That seems more likely. But, you know, I think at the moment, Labour MPs clearly in mutinous mood, but equally, many of them are going, if we twist and get rid of Keir Starmer, something even worse could come around the corner.
And that's what I said earlier, just to finish. If you're an MP, this is why politics is so unfair to the average common person, because, you know, if you stick your head above the parapet too quickly and back the wrong person, your political career's over. If you wait too long and somebody emerges and you haven't shown your support, and that's what it sadly becomes. Whilst this country's drowning under an increasing amount of tax and cost of living crises, left, right and bleeding centre, politicians are after their own ends. Jack, it's great to have you on, mate. Been too long. Have a lovely day. We'll speak to you very soon. Thank you so much, Jack Elson, political editor of The Sun there. 20 minutes to 9 o'clock. Sean in Gloucester. Yeah, we do have enough of our own homegrown criminals, Jez, which is exactly why we don't need to import any more. Jez, morning.
Morning, Jezza. Jez here from Deal in Kent. 23 years served, former Royal Marines officer. Al Carnes, when he served, was a respected man, a good Royal Marines officer, very accomplished. Since he's joined the Labour Party, though, he has gone back on many of his service pledges. Be under no illusion, whilst he may have stepped away from this Troubles Bill now, he has been an apologist for it, and he has been an architect of it. And if he's away overseas today and not going to vote, well, that might just strike me as some kind of cowardice, really. I hate saying it about him because he's a good man, but he has put his party and this policy before his service and his former comrades, and he's been called out for it by the veterans community. So you say he might be a stalking horse for Keir Starmer. Careful what you wish for.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 17 minutes to 9 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Very soon, Samara Gill from that national fuel protest, the biggest one in 20 years, outside the House of Commons today, basically saying, drivers, farmers, lorry drivers, van drivers, tractor drivers, you know, can you do something about this? Our business is being screwed by you. I just want to read this because stories, we try and do things differently. Andy in Cheddar, beautiful part of the country. Why is nobody talking about the Mandelson-Starmer-Palantir stuff? This is the meeting that he went to at a high-tech firm. Didn't actually possibly say he'd been there, which is why there's going to be a sleaze inquiry. Yeah, Andy, we've been doing that for 2 hours. But stories from Cheddar, genuinely true. Big Mark, when I say big, I'm not going into why, says 26 years ago he was in Cheddar Gorge when his then wife or girlfriend, we're not sure, discovered she was pregnant. By him, I'd like to point out. I also pointed out on a geography field trip, probably 40-something years ago, I'm about 12, and we're on a geography field trip, and we're stood in Cheddar Gorge, and I'm obviously messing about because it was a bit of an arse, and the teacher's gone, Kyle, when you look down this valley, what do you see? What do you think? And I said, I saw a sheep, so I said mint sauce, and I got sent home. But the old man, you lost a pupil. Sorry, Christian's just said we lost a pupil. Is that a child or an eye? Later. 0344 499 1000. Text to A7222. Let's say a very good morning. Delighted to have him on. Local elections on the way, of course. Sir John Curtis, polling expert and professor of politics at the University of Strathclyde. Sir John, good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Jeremy. How's yourself? We're enjoying the beautiful weather even up here in the west of Scotland at this time of the year.
Good man, well done. I mean, the elections, obviously, May the 7th, next Thursday. Unprecedented losses is what we're hearing for Labour, growing support, Greens and Reform. What about Ed Davey? What is the latest picture, Sir John, across the country?
Well, let's bear in mind that around 2/3 of the seats that are being contested in the English local elections on Thursday week were last contested back in 2022. Now, at that stage, Boris Johnson was still Prime Minister, but it's post-Partygate, so the Tories are to some degree behind Labour in the poll. Still, Labour at 40, Conservative at 34 is very, very different from what the polls are saying now and have been saying now for a number of weeks, which is Labour 19, Conservative 18. Support reform is down from what it was at the back end of last year. It now seems to be running at about 26%. That's still enough to put them in the lead, but it perhaps means they won't necessarily be making quite the gains that we might have anticipated earlier this year. But of course, on the other hand, Labour's problem is that support for the Greens has risen during the course of this year. It's now running at around 16%, although frankly, the polls vary quite a lot about exactly what that figure is. And that does mean Labour in particular are facing a challenge from Reform, particularly in Leave voting areas in the north of England, places like Sunderland, Barnsley, Gateshead, where we could conceive of the possibility of Reform gaining control of those councils. And then in London, it's the Greens who seem, particularly in inner London, to be the big challengers. Hackney, Haringey, Lambeth, Lewisham. These are also, again, crucial battles where perhaps Labour are much more on the defensive than they would normally expect.
Can you imagine much change between now and polling day? You said, it's quite interesting, that analogy from years ago and then now, and the Greens surging and Reform support staying sort of steady. Yeah, they're dropping a little bit, you said. Can you see any shift in this at all? Do you think, because I always hear from politicians that, you know, the challenge is not the voter intentions you've got, it's the people who haven't shown what their vote will be.
Well, that's certainly a fair comment, certainly particularly as far as Scotland's concerned. Ipsos have produced data to suggest that, you know, around twice as many people are, even though they tell the pollsters what they're going to do, but I might change my mind to a much greater extent than in the last Scottish election 5 years ago. So we should bear that in mind. That said, it doesn't seem likely that there's going to be a major change in the position that we've been seeing, because we are in roughly the same place we've been now for 6 months ago. I think the question is that, you know, there are, however, some key uncertainties already mentioned about just how strong are the Greens in England. Equally, whether or not it's Plaid or Reform or who are ahead in Wales. And some of the polls have narrowed on that issue. And in Scotland, well, one poll put the SNP up at 41%. Another one says, no, it's only 32%. So fundamental change, no. Anything that suggests that the Conservatives and Labour are going to do anything and lose a lot of seats, no. But just exactly how well some of the challengers to the traditional Conservative Labour duopoly will do, that I think is where the uncertainty lies. And I guess to some degree, at least, a kind of slight potential silver lining for what are some pretty dark clouds for both Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch.
What about turnout? One of the things that we always talk about in elections, general and local, is the apathy. Is that turning on its head, really? Are people invested more because of the things that they are concerned about now?
Not obviously so, Jeremy. It's difficult to tell with the local elections, but the truth is that local elections, particularly in urban England, which is where most of the elections are this year, turnout much above 35% is relatively rare. Scotland, for the Parliament, normally gets turnout just over 50% or so nothing dramatic. It was higher in 2021, but that was in the wake of the pandemic, when the devolved institutions were much more prominent. Wales, well, frankly, it's had some pretty low turnouts in past Senate elections, but again, perhaps they might get to the 50% mark. The truth is, although commentators like you and I pore over the detail of these elections that take place in between Westminster elections, but the turnout isn't always that high. That said, the rises and falls in party support do, broadly speaking at least, tend to parallel the changes in the national picture, which is why at the end of the day, we're expecting both Conservative and Labour to lose quite a lot of seats, just not quite sure exactly how many.
Sir John, it's always great to have you on, my friend. We'll keep close to you over the next couple of weeks. Sir John Curtis, polling expert, the best in the business, 10 to 9. We're live across the UK. Whatever you want to talk about, Starmer, Trump, the Troubles Bill, or even something I'm going to talk about in the next hour. Gordon Ramsay's been adding service charges as high as 20% to diners' bills under an American-style tipping culture creeping into British life. He added a discretionary service charge of 20% at his skyscraper restaurant complex in London's Bishopgate at Christmas and New Year's Eve. And I just say, there is nothing that annoys me more when somebody assumes I'm going to give them 20%. Surely it is up to you to decide how you tip. Would love your thoughts on that. We're going live now to what is described, my friends, as the biggest national fuel protest in 20 years. It's outside the House of Commons today. A legion of people angry at the government. Farmers on tractors, lorry drivers and tradesmen in van demanding that Rachel Thieves takes action to tackle out-of-control fuel prices. And it's been 2 weeks. But she's back. Samara Gill, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm well. Are you look... Oh, it's the shade. I thought you were in the dark there. Love, you all right?
No, I'm all good. You know, actually, I'm a bit traumatized. I just saw Rachel Thieves walking into her office, and it was quite a sight. But she doesn't quite have that charisma where you sort of go back and you're like, wow, I just saw the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I more had to bite my tongue to not shout out anything and say, why have you just taxed me on my last bill? So, yeah.
Brilliant. Today...
Darren Jones also just walked past.
Who?
Today, Darren Jones, that man that we always talk about. All these people who really should come on the station and talk to us. They're just freely walking about. What are they not doing at Talk Towers?
I've no idea. Darren Jones isn't so... He's not a... No, don't get me on Darren Jones. Tell me more about this national fuel protest. Reform Labour going to speak to Layla, London's mayoral candidate, later today. Lots of people, understandably, people who need their cars to go to work or their vans to go to work, self-employed people are saying we are being destroyed by this government. Can you not tackle out-of-control fuel prices and stop blaming the war in the Middle East, because there was a problem before that started and now it's being exacerbated, right?
Absolutely right, Jeremy. And what it is basically, to break it down very simply, every time you pump a litre of fuel into your car, which you might be listening on right now, you have a almost 50% tax that goes directly into the government's pocket. And then on top of that, you've got a VAT that is also going into the government's pocket. So you're basically paying double tax on your fuel. This is some of the highest in the world that people in the UK are dealing with. And it's taxation nation. It's like every single time you step out of the house, either to go to your job, go pick up your kids from school, you're getting taxed to the hilt. And then by the time you actually get to work, you're getting taxed again. So it's a real problem. And what this protest, which will be forming behind me shortly, is going to do is say to the government, stop this right now. You actually are in control. It's nothing to do with Iran in many respects. And you need to start thinking about your people and less about party policy and gripping onto power.
And I think that's the thing that people are so angry about, that if you go to work in your van or you go to work... I mean, I had a district nurse on the other day who said that she has to pay for her own fuel. She's self-employed through the system, and that she's finding it too expensive to actually go and do what she needs to do. Listen to this from Anthony Harrison in Stockport. Morning, Jez. Why doesn't Rachel and the Counts cut the eco-tax and 2p of VAT on fuel? This doesn't have to be permanent. This will be proactive instead of reactive. But I'm pretty sure that Starmer will have some sort of inquiry or Cobra meeting he needs to go to, and will understandably ignore, or not understandably ignore, the desires of hard-working Brits, which is what we talk about every day, right?
Absolutely. This is something the government could do tomorrow. You know, I was doing some research, and fuel is actually less than 70 pence a litre. But unfortunately, the government does feel that they need to take every time you go to the pump. And that's a massive issue. You know, fuel is the lifeblood of this country. If you think about it, this entire ecosystem runs on it. And the government could be making changes to people's bills tomorrow if they gave a damn about it, but they don't want to. And that's the key issue here, you know. It's a very simple thing, but Rachel Reeves keeps harping on about staying strong and collecting her pound of flesh from the British people, and I think they're not going to put up with it. Today we're going to see tractors, we're going to see farmers coming in from all across the country, as well as regular commuters saying no to this government, and I think that's a really strong message that hopefully they take into account.
This is what I don't understand, Samara, about this government, right? I don't understand how they seem to blindly ignore what is patently the desire of the people. People are saying we are struggling to be able to go about our everyday life. Why can't you damn well help us? I don't know whether they're oblivious, they're not bothered, they think, I don't know, what is it? Do they miss the point, do you think?
Of course they do. I mean, just looking at Rachel come out of her vehicle that she probably doesn't have to pay the fuel on. You know, they're so cozy and coveted away in Westminster. They don't deal with any of the issues or any of the implications of their actions in those offices behind me. And, you know, when you say the people might think, oh, it's only those who vote a certain way. No, it seems to be a general consensus in Britain right now, whichever way you vote for. And I think the people have had enough. And, you know, fuel is the very basic thing. It goes along with food and energy costs. And we are dealing with the highest in the world in every single front. So that's not a government who's protecting us at all. And it's just because of lackluster policy. You know, across the, even just across the channel in France, they're not dealing with some of these issues because even that government knows how to get their ish together. And that's what's so infuriating. Even in Australia, they're putting down policies, they're making public transport free. You know, they do care a little bit, but not here.
Great to have you on. Thank you, Samara Gill. Live and exclusive. Talk Breakfast. The news at 9 is next.
When I was growing up, a profound love of the British Empire, actually, and the good that Britain did for the world. And yet, to have that view today seems more of an exception than the norm.
Over the past week, I have been living on the coast of Belgium. Small boats leaving the Flemish coast to go to England. So far, 20 small boats that have left the Belgian coast to come to England.
When they saw that drunk woman at 5:45 a.m. in the morning, they just felt contempt for her. They took advantage of her. They are barbarians.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, you know, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there. I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. You know, his WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Just gone 9 o'clock. We are live across the United Kingdom. Talk Breakfast is on. It's the home, of course, of common sense. The home of, well, the alarm clock Brit, the person that's out there grafting. Ian Hayward, good morning to you. He says, I'm seriously thinking of hanging up my car keys after 20 years of driving because of what this fuel is doing to you, to me as a business. If you remember, we talked before the break about the biggest national fuel protest in 20 years taking place outside the House of Commons today, led by Reform Layla Cunningham, the Reform mayoral candidate, on this show between now and 10 o'clock. You're waking up, of course, the news dominated by that third assassination attempt on Donald Trump at the White House Correspondents' Dinner over the weekend. The King and Queen carrying on with their royal visit, landing in D.C. today. We'll have that throughout the day. And back in Westminster, fresh troubles for Starmer, which we'll go into some detail with the man who will not give up on him, Dan Hodges from the Mail, in just a tick. Morning, Sharon.
Morning, Jez. Nice to see you back at home and doing your job. Just about the migrants, where has all the families and children gone now? We never hear anything of families and children. That's just died a death. You know, that's what they used to use. Oh, these families coming from war-torn countries. Where are the families? Where are the children and the women? They're not coming over on these boats because we all can see the men and the fighting age men.
0344 499 1000, text to 87222. I'm absolutely aware that many of you are talking about a trial of 3 men taking place this week, charged with arson over fires at home and a car linked to Sir Keir Starmer. We will keep you updated. We have to allow justice to take its course. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Jez, says Ian, I got nabbed for speeding yesterday, pretty marginal, £100 on and points coming my way by the police. Last week I tackled a shoplifter. Police not interested. Can somebody explain to me? Yes, you horrible person. Of course you shouldn't speed. I got done the other day for doing 34 and a 30. They wouldn't offer me a, what's that called, a driver awareness course? They wouldn't. I don't know why. 60 quid, 100 quid, 3 points, yeah. But yeah, absolutely. If somebody nicks up... I completely agree. Now we'll be told, are you condoning driving? No, we're just fed up with how the world's going. 0344 499 1000. We should bow down at the temple that is occupied by a man who is brave enough to write in the Mail today. I love this from Dan Hodges. Bunker mentality has kept Sakir blissfully unaware of just how loathed he is. Dan Hodges, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Morning. Very good.
Oh, mate, you like... I was away on holiday reading, and you're just like a dog with a bone. I'm loving this. Let's talk all things Starmer, and let's try and go through it, because you always do this so well for me. Fresh trouble overnight. We hear that the police are preparing to question officials over McSweeney's stolen phone. The best way I can describe the phone is there were 2. The one that went missing, conveniently, was the one that didn't have the backup for any messages. Plus, he didn't say what he did or his name or where he lost it. But it's not for me to cast aspersions. But interestingly, tomorrow at 9 o'clock, in front of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Morgan McSweeney will be appearing. And the big question, love to hear from you on this, Dan, is he going to stick the knife into the mortally wounded Starmer already, or will he take the rap? What's your thoughts?
I think he'll take the rap. I mean, it's true that when Morgan McSweeney left Downing Street, he did so with a degree of bitterness. I mean, he was angry at the way that Keir Starmer had treated him. He, at the very end, if you recall, he actually attempted to say to the Prime Minister, look, you're going to need to make a decision on my future here. Do you want me to stay or do you want me to go? Starmer, in classic Starmer style, refused to say anything to him. So in the end, Morgan McSweeney just said, screw it, I'll take the decision myself, and decided to resign. And I remember speaking to his allies at the time who were vicious about the way that the Prime Minister treated him. And it's true that the way Morgan McSweeney was treated with Starmer is the way that all of Keir Starmer's other sort of key aides and advisors were treated. All of them were eventually dispensed with. But that said, you know, Morgan McSweeney is still a Labour man. He was the key architect of Keir Starmer's project. He does not harbour the same level of bitterness, for example, Don Cummings harboured towards Boris Johnson. So he will, I think, there may be a little odd barb here and there, but he will, I think, tuck in on me.
It's really interesting. Carl Turner, the Labour MP who got suspended, I know there's more to the story, but he basically called McSweeney and the phone story untrue. You have been on this from the beginning. Interesting, fresh trouble overnight. Police preparing to question officials over this missing phone.
Yeah, this is an interesting angle. Now, if you remember at the time of the Phonegate, Downing Street, as ever, to try and cover themselves, tried to shift the blame onto the Met. And if you remember, were briefing that effectively the Met had in some way bungled the investigation into the loss of the phone. And the Met obviously haven't taken kindly to that. Now, again, obviously, there are so many aspects to this story that it's quite hard to sort of keep up with them all. But if you remember, I think it was last month, the Met announced quite pointedly that they were going to reopen the investigation into the phone, and were going to go through and look at CCTV records to see if there was any record of the phone being stolen. Now, the fact that they've now decided to come to Downing Street and ask Downing Street, is there anything Downing Street can do to assist in the way the Met are phrasing it is, locate the phone. What's quite clear the Met are doing, the Met are starting to establish a case to say we have no evidence the phone was stolen.
Well, the point is, I mean, I'm not a technical person, mate, but even I can go, and it made you smile when I was saying it. So I'm walking along the street and I've got two phones, and it just so happens that the one that's nicked is the one with all the government messages on. Oh, and it just turns out to be that that's the one that hasn't got, don't question my technical ability because it's crap, the one where you can retrieve messages. And I'm not going to give my name or my location or say I'm probably the most important person in government by the Prime Minister. If you say it like that, Dan, and I think you're right on the money, it's just fishy, isn't it? It is.
Well, the issue in relation to what the Met are asking, my understanding from reports is the Met are saying, do you have any technical expertise that could help us track it? Now, the point is the phone was tracked. The phone did have a sort of a tracker device in it. But my understanding from the reports we had at the time, that when Morgan McSweeney contacted Downing Street, said my phone has been stolen, what Downing Street actually did was, the way it was phrased at the time, was kill the phone. So that all the messages were wiped, but so was the capacity to track the phone. So I don't think we're going anywhere with...
Can I ask one question, though, very quickly? If he sent messages which are of interest in this inquiry, I guess that the government, you just said it there, number 10, could wipe that phone. What about, good point, Mark, what about the phones of the people in government that he'll have sent those messages to?
They should still have those messages. But what we... and I wrote this at the time, and we will see, obviously after the local elections, the next tranche of messages will be released. We will see what comes out. But there is again, another aspect that hasn't been picked up on. If you remember, I think it was Kat Little who spoke to the Foreign Affairs Select Committee last week. Now, I think... I should go back and check this, but I think she said something in terms which said that in relation to the documentation that Downing Street and the Cabinet Office have in relation to the period relating to Mandelson's appointment, all the information that is available has been released on that period. Now, the key thing is we have not had a single message.
Yeah.
We've not had a single WhatsApp message. We haven't had a single text message. We haven't had a single email exchange. We have not had a single piece of documentation from Keir Starmer himself in relation to Mandelson's appointment. We haven't had a message from him to Morgan. Remember, we were told by Olin Robbins last week. There was this almost daily, prior to his appointment, this daily pressure from the Cabinet Office, this daily pressure from Downing Street, daily calls, daily messages. What's happening? Why aren't you speed this thing up? We've seen nothing. And I think in terms of all the messages, etc., I've said it before, and I'm going to be completely open about this. I think there's just going to be a massive cover-up. I think when
there will be, or there has been.
Oh, there has been, and is continuing.
Will it be found out?
Well, it will be found out, but it depends on how people, how critical and people want to be. I mean, the way I've put it is this: like that old Sherlock Holmes thing. You need to see it. It's about the dog that doesn't bark. We are going to get a new raft of messages. If we don't see any messages within that, significant number of messages within that from McSweeney to Mandelson, and we don't see any messages from Starmer to Mandelson, and we don't see any messages between Starmer and McSweeney, then we know they've been disappeared. We know there's been a cover up, because we all know how government works. I mean, I know, everybody who covers Westminster knows. People are messaging and WhatsApp. Nobody phones anybody anymore.
No.
People are just messaging. It's like society. People are messaging, WhatsApping all the times. All those messages, I suspect 99% of the relevant messages will have disappeared.
Let me move it to this, because I think it's fascinating. There's that. Obviously, the police are now involved. Obviously, tomorrow, McSweeney and the ex-Foreign Office Chief, Philip Barton, answering questions to the Foreign Affairs Committee from 9 a.m. will take that. To say the vultures are gathering over Starmer, Labour rebels apparently, you need to set a timetable. Overnight rumours that Angela is eyeing a clear run. HMRC thing could be sorted. She and Burnham could be in cahoots. But what's really interesting is, and this to me, and this is why your article this morning is so relevant, is here's a man who forgot to declare a visit to the headquarters of a tech firm, Palantir, in Washington last year. This company, important to note, was a client of Lord Mandelson's lobbying firm. Only now has Starmer gone, oh, yes, I forgot to put that down. There are massive demands, escalating demands for a sleaze inquiry. Two quick questions for you. Should he and will he face a sleaze inquiry, or do you ever see him doing what I'm sure a lot of people think he might do, which is to throw his hands in the air instead of resigning, call a general election and make sure that all those critics lose their jobs? Dan Hodges.
He definitely should face an inquiry. I think in terms of should, we're expecting a ruling from the Speaker's office today about whether MPs should vote on such an inquiry. It is quite clear, all the evidence is there that sufficient evidence is there that Starmer misled the House.
Which is exactly what he went on and on and on about for Boris Johnson.
Absolutely. Then the issue will be whether or not Labour MPs have the courage to actually vote for it. Now, if they did, that would be game over. That would be the end of the affair. Starmer at that point would have to resign. I think it is unlikely, given where we are at the moment, given that we are in the middle of obviously very important local elections, given, as we've been reporting, the leadership candidates are still sort of getting their final ducks in a row to launch their campaigns after 8th of May, because there are now clear reports that the cabinet are preparing to mobilise. I'm not sure that the Parliamentary Labour Party is going to want to use there will probably be a vote tomorrow, to basically force the Prime Minister out. The one difference also, I think it's important to say this because I actually tweeted about this. The one thing I would say as well in terms of the comparisons with Boris, in my view, Starmer's lies are more demonstrable than Boris's were. I mean, the you said about Palantir, that is on the record now, that Starmer and his team have again attempted to mislead the House and the country on this issue. The one thing I would say is Labour in opposition were very, very effective. Starmer's team were very effective, very ruthless in very forensically focusing people on the detail of how Boris had misled the House. You mentioned Palantir. The story broke yesterday in the Telegraph. Quite clear Starmer has again misled the House. Didn't hear a peep out of the Tories. Didn't hear a peep out of it. Now, Kemi Badenoch was good in the House. She actually was the person who, with her questioning of Starmer, who got this whole saga rolling when she got Starmer to say, I've got confidence in him. But they are not, at the moment, being, in my view, effective enough at demonstrating that Keir Starmer lied.
Well, you said something interesting. I'm with you. You said misled the House again. This isn't just once. There is increasing proof that when he said due process was followed in the vetting, that's been skewered by Sir Ollie Robbins.
There are seven times where Keir Starmer specifically lied to the House, misled the House, misled the country, or broke the ministerial code over Mandelson. But as I said, it requires the opposition to be absolutely ruthless, forensic and detailed. When you get to this stage and you want Labour MPs to walk through the lobbies against their own Prime Minister, you have to set out in black and white what the case is, not just, oh, Keir Starmer lied. You have to say, on this date, he said this and this is the fact. And at the moment, frankly, the Tories are being rubbish at doing that.
Why? This is a perfect opportunity for them to...
Yeah, I mean,
take advantage of a situation that was shoved at them, quite rightly, 2 years ago. Surely they should be all over it.
I think you've got to remember this is still a relatively inexperienced Tory team. They've spent a lot of time on the back foot. A lot of the focus has been on let's defend ourselves against reform, defections, etc. They have got the opportunity now to bring down the Prime Minister, and frankly, at the moment, they just do not seem to have the experience, the professionalism, the ruthlessness to do what needs to be done to bring Starmer down in that way. So I mean, Starmer is going to go, but I think ultimately it is going to be the Labour Party that brings Keir Starmer down, for all the broader political reasons that we think, than the Tories will be able to marshal a case tomorrow, which means Labour MPs will go through the lobbies to effectively end his premiership. I think, like I said, it will be Labour that gets Starmer, not the Tories.
Fascinating article, by the way, from Dan. Bunker mentality today in the Mail has kept Sir Keir blissfully unaware of how loathed he is. Dan, always a pleasure, mate. We're going to keep close to you over the next few days. Thank you so much to do the extra. Dan Hodges there, commentator, Mail on Sunday and the Mail. He's been on this story about the missing phone and the holes in that story. You heard him just say, in his mind, Keir Starmer has lied and misled the House of Commons and the British public 7 times. This is a man who made a career out of going for Bojo over the cake, and I'm not sticking up for the man, but his frontline political career was finished. This man is still ensconced in 10 Downing Street. It's an outrage. Morning, Sue.
Morning, Jezza. It's Sue from Macclesfield here. Just to let you know, when I can't believe we're going to have, if the rumours are true, the Ginger Growler as our next Prime Minister. The last lady Prime Minister we had was Margaret Thatcher, and she looked like a proper stateswoman. Angela Rayner just looks a state.
When I was growing up, a profound love of the British Empire, actually, and the good that Britain did for the world. And yet, to have that view today seems more of an exception than the norm.
Over the past week, I have been living on the coast of Belgium. Small boats leaving the Flemish coast to go to England. So far, 20 small boats that have left the Belgian coast to come to England.
When they saw that drunk woman at 5:45 a.m. in the morning, they just felt contempt for her. They took advantage of her. They are barbarians.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:25. We're live across the... Oh, sorry, I do apologise. I'm all over the place, been running down the corridor. Christian's having a go at me. Welcome back. Talk Breakfast on until 10 o'clock. Listen, so many of you getting involved today. Thank you very much indeed, Tony. Morning, Jez. If we have a text conversation, I lose my phone, you'll still have my messages. Who was McSweeney texting and get their phone to the police? I mean, that would make sense, wouldn't it? That would make sense. But we're never having a text message conversation today, just so you're aware. Rob, Jez, the problem with Starmer is that he is a narcissist. It's all about him staying in power and sod the rest of us. A lot of people feel like that. Carl says, just seen 10 illegal migrants outside a known Bournemouth hotel drinking Costa coffee. I can't afford Costa as I'm on my way to work each morning. I have to make a flask. Interesting. When it comes to Angela Rayner, this is from Sean in Paul. Most people's conveyancer tell you your tax liability before they complete the purchase, as they normally pay it for you. Angela Rayner, there we go. Leslie, I heard you say about these people who, those illegals who attacked that girl. Jeremy, these young men are coming into our country without ID. We, the British, need a passport to go in and out of our country. Why are they allowing undocumented men to remain freely in this country, putting people at risk? Many people share that. Caroline, morning, she sent me a picture of a new viewer. It's her cat. Brilliant. Hello, Mike. Paul's in Fife. Jeremy, and welcome back. If King Charles wants to mend relations with the USA, why doesn't he have a word with Starmer and tell him to resign? Mending bridges with POTUS Trump will be short-term until Starmer puts his foot in it again. Paul, it's a constitutional monarchy. The King can't do now. Ben's in London. Good morning, Jez. As an ex-soldier who spent 15 years in Northern Ireland from 1972 to 1987, the worst time of the conflict, I have sent an email to my MP, Dame Meg Hillier, to ask her to vote with her conscience, not with the party line, and bin this bill. I won't hold my breath. Good morning to Ruth from Derbyshire. Last week there was a big thing about how young people won't sign up. You can understand why they don't want to sign up to be a soldier when you get treated like this. David Thomas, big this morning, this Troubles Bill stuff. So Al Cairns hides, and the lack of comment from the existing senior military commanders is deafening. They should all be ashamed of themselves. It's being left to our regimental associations to fight on our behalf, and these men remain quiet so that their future rewards aren't compromised. It is utterly disgusting. This is the response to the Veterans Bill, the Troubles Bill that's being put through the House of Commons today. Interestingly, Al Cairns, the Armed Forces Minister, an ex-well-decorated soldier, is nowhere to be seen. He is, by all accounts, on official ministerial business, which we have to accept. But this is a man who's been on resignation watch because it doesn't sit with who he was and what he was. It's very interesting. I think it's a disgusting piece of legislation. Morning, Tony.
Morning, Jezza. Tony from Enfield. Great show. Regarding this welfare bill that's going up exponentially by the day, it's going to have to start being taxed. You know, the more that you get in benefits, the more it's taxed. The less you take out in benefits, the less it's taxed. Now, we know that there are genuine claimants in there, and that should be recognised and they should be supported. But unfortunately, they've been spoiled by the people that are fraudulently claiming.
Couldn't agree with you more, Tony. The problem is, whenever we talk about benefits, and just before, a couple of weeks ago, before I went away, there was that terrible figure, wasn't there, that the Exchequer gets 331 million in tax from, billion, I should say, in tax from the workers, and benefits had slid past that to £333 billion. Surely there comes a point where we have to have a conversation in this country which says, we are really all very happy and very willing to pay our taxes to help people, like Mary from Canterbury earlier, who's being made, her life's been made terrible because she can't get what she deserves. But these genuine people are missing out because people are gaming the system. We say a very good morning, because there's a great story in The Sun today. Former political editor, the voice of a generation, Trevor Kavanagh. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Welcome back.
Thank you. Honest to God, I can't get away with anything, you know. Mate, I struggle with stories like this, Trev. Page 19 of The Sun, universal credit claimants are getting discounted rounds of golf and cut-price kayaking in a spate of soft-touch offers. As a Sun probe, great work by Thomas Godfrey, found those on the taxpayer-funded benefit are being given ridiculous perks. Trevor, I've heard so many people say, whenever we've talked about this on a serious note, you don't understand how hard it is to be on benefits. I want the genuine people, be it the welfare state or the National Health Service, to get every part of the support that I'm happy to pay him for. But unless this country finally has a debate about how it has become a career choice for the feckless and the lazy, and it is screwing the rest of us up completely, I think we're going to end up in huge, huge trouble, pal.
I think we're already there, Jeremy. You've got 11 million people who are on work-related or other forms of benefit and simply not getting up in the morning and going to work. And if you've got all those empty hours of the day, I mean, golf is a great way of filling them, and I think we should do our best to make sure there's something for them that's worth keeping the exercise going. I mean, seriously, this is a major problem which is now crushing the British economy, and it will get worse and worse. And as the Labour Party lurches further to the left, the emphasis on paying benefits rather than getting people to accept their responsibilities to contribute will increase.
Accept their responsibilities and contribute. We're old, right? Where is that? Why is that suddenly abnormal to accept and pay for your own responsibilities, be they your kids, be it the house you want to buy, be it the meal you want to aspire to going out and having with your partner or whatever? Why are we now? And I mean, I heard Rachel Reeves on screen now talking about the two-child cap benefit before I went away, and she said, maybe people won't like my response, I've no idea, but she said, we cannot allow another generation of kids to be born into poverty. Am I wrong to say, if you can't afford to look after them, why are you having them, for goodness sake? Or am I missing the point?
I don't believe there's any such thing in modern Britain as widespread, genuine, undeserved poverty. There are some people who genuinely do deserve help for reasons which can easily be explained, but the overwhelming majority of that 11 million on benefits of various kinds is because they have decided to give up, and they have decided to give up because the benefits that come in are often more than they could earn by getting up and working an 8-hour day. And this is something which I think that the British public has sussed and is getting very angry about. And those discounted memberships of golf courses and other things like being able to go to the National Gallery or the Tower of London at a fraction of the price that working people have to pay. This is all an encouragement to people to down tools, sit at home and watch TV.
Do you think that there's huge fraud within the benefit system, Trevor?
I think it's absolutely self-evident. How many of those 11 million people couldn't work if they really wanted to, or even if they were urged to do so by a responsible government or local authority? Very, very few of them. And we've seen enough stories in recent times about people going on quite expensive foreign holidays and doing all sorts of costly exercise like bungee jumping and zip wiring and claiming they're unfit to work. Where does that add up?
No, and it doesn't. And I do think the reason that we always come back to it, and the reason there is so much anger about this whole benefit story, and it's brilliant that the Sun have written that, in the hole for benefits perks, is that word that keeps coming out, Trev, which is unfairness. And how on earth do we... I mean, when I think back to like being 16 or 18, we had a choice. You went to college or you went to work. And I say this every day and people get bored with it. You can now go to college, go to work or sign on. It was never meant to be there. How do we change it? I mean, I've sat here for ages and said that if you're long-term unemployed and you haven't been able to get work, I would absolutely demand that you do community service to give something back for the money that you're getting, to get yourself out of bed, to give you some motivation. But if we're giving people more money for doing nothing than they would get for getting out of bed, then we only have ourselves to blame, don't we?
We do, and I think that I was born into a generation many, many decades ago when it was regarded as shameful to be claiming benefits that you weren't entitled to. People didn't claim benefits they were entitled to simply because of the embarrassment of looking as if they were skiving. That embarrassment has now completely gone. In fact, it's a badge of pride to be able to say that you're not working. You're getting it all off the other people who are paying their taxes. And to just loll around and never actually return to work. I mean, what is most tragic about these welfare figures is that many young people leaving school and getting to the age of about 20, 25 have never worked, and after that, they never will work.
How does that... See, that's just not in my psyche. I don't even understand that, right? I don't. And this is a debate that is going to carry on and on. Another thing I just wanted to touch upon with you, which, again, wasn't at the top of the news agenda today, but really riles me and the viewers and listeners a lot. This Troubles bill that Hermer and Starmer are trying to push through the Commons today. Interesting that the Armed Forces Minister Al Cairns nowhere to be seen. Just explain to me, as an old-fashioned gentleman that you are, and I consider myself completely with you. So 30 years ago, we asked people to don a uniform and go and fight for king, queen then and country. And now, because we've got apologists and people who disagree with almost everything that's ever happened in this country in power, they at 70 are sat waiting for a knock on the door to be prosecuted whilst this government gives immunity to the IRA. I think it's absolutely... I find it's abhorrent. Absolutely abhorrent, isn't it?
Absolutely. And again, I get back to the word, this is shameful. And I think that it wasn't so long ago that we used to have Army and Navy and Air Force personnel walking the streets proudly in their uniforms.
Yeah.
It became too dangerous to do that because the IRA were out to kill them, and indeed did so in large numbers. These are people who stood up and fought for Britain. But people like Hermer and indeed Starmer, they are peas from the same legal pod and political pod and human rights pod. They are hostile, not just to the armed forces, but also to Britain as such, to its history, to its imperial past. They are in for a vendetta against Britain. I mean, they are not British supporters. They are not loyal to this country. I think in the eyes of a great many of your listeners and viewers, they are treason. They are traitors to this country. And I think that Hermer should and eventually will be sacked by Starmer as he throws everybody overboard who causes him problems.
Couldn't agree more. There were some allegations on the front of the Telegraph today which Hermer said were untrue. But in essence, what you're saying to people is, thank you so much indeed for your service, but we're gonna screw you over. Can I just ask you before you go? The clock is ticking on Starmer. We've got police are preparing to question officials inside 10 Downing Street about the Morgan McSweeney phone debacle. The Labour Party, the Parliamentary Labour Party, up in arms. The Cabinet are beginning to plot. Rayner and Burnham might have a Blair Brown sort of cohort. We don't know. Most of all, Dan Hodges just said, he said, and I quote, Keir Starmer's misled Parliament and lied to Parliament, the British people, nearly 7 times now. Will there be a sleaze inquiry into him, the very thing that he forced upon Boris Johnson, Trevor Kavanagh, do you think?
Well, I certainly hope so. And as I think I said to you a couple of weeks ago, when Lindsay Hoyle and Keir Starmer clashed in the House of Commons after question time recently, and Keir Starmer banged on the arm of Lindsay Hoyle's Speaker's chair, the impartial leader of the House of Commons, the man who runs the House of Commons, and shouted at him in full view of the parliamentary press gallery and the whole House of Commons. I said at the time that was a bad mistake, because it will be Lindsay Hoyle as Speaker who decides whether or not this government or this Prime Minister has to stand effectively on trial for misconduct.
If there is a sleaze inquiry, does that finish him? Because nothing seems to at the moment, my friend.
Well, he's been a dead man walking. I think we've discussed this several times.
Every
for about the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And he's still walking. The big problem, as it's now common currency to say, is who replaces him. If there was someone worth having to replace him, who was popular enough to win a vote, he would be gone long ago. But there isn't. I mean, Angela Rayner, can you imagine the horror of an Angela Rayner premiership, or an Ed Miliband premiership, or indeed, actually, an Andy Burnham premiership? Because the only way that any new Prime Minister is going to get this country, this government out of the mess that it's in, is by adopting policies that are popular with the public, and they won't be popular with the party. So the moment that someone comes in, say Shabana Mahmood, who is popular with the right, but very, very deeply unpopular with everybody else in the Labour Party. I mean, the party would disintegrate before your eyes. It would be wonderful to behold. But the point, Jeremy, then, is that we should have a general election. Indeed, I think we should be all campaigning now for a general election to get rid of this terrible, terrible government.
Mate, it's always an absolute pleasure to have you on. We love having you on. We thank you so much indeed for your time, talking all things political. Trevor Kavanagh, ex-political editor of The Sun. Thank you, my friend. Before 10 o'clock, we'll go live to the House of Commons, where that big fuel protest is. We'll speak to the brilliant Layla Cunningham, Reform's mayoral candidate in London. Also, Kinsey Schofield on the royal visit. Morning, Danny.
Morning, Jezza. Danny from Bedfordshire here. Welcome back. Good to have you back. So, this Northern Ireland bill, if we can prosecute soldiers for doing their jobs 40 years ago, can we now prosecute terrible MPs, terrible prime ministers for messing up the country in the last 40 years? How about that? Let's bring that bill in.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 20 minutes to 10 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Loads of you getting involved about the benefits. So, good morning, Mark. Oh, you haven't got it yet. Hello to Sandra in Essex. My husband had a serious accident at work and went on universal credit for 9 months. He retired last year. And, Jez, would you believe it? HMRC are taking back this monthly money from his pension. Unbelievable. You see what I mean? A genuine case. Screwed down. Kian's in Cornwall. Listening to you talking about the abuse of the benefits in the country. As an employer, the trouble is I would not want to employ someone whose attitude is they would rather stay at home if they have a choice to. So if they are forced to work, who would want them? Interesting. God, it's just hard, isn't it, man? Well, it's not hard at all. It's not rocket science. David, the benefits bill doesn't send the country under. The illegal immigrants will. We won't be bothered about the chunk of tax on fuel. We won't need it. Last one out. Please, can you turn the damn lights off, says David. Such happiness. Mike Williams in Pewsey. Oh, Pewsey. I don't know why I've done a Welsh accent. I know in Wiltshire well. I retired 6 years ago. One day, whilst looking out of my kitchen window, I realised that I rarely drove my car, so I gave it to my daughter. I now walk or use public transport and save about $3 grand a year. I don't miss driving at all. Right, well, that's excellent, Mike. You are, of course, that's brilliant. I agree. Walking's lovely, says a man who mowed his own lawn yesterday for the first time ever. But for people who need their cars to go to work, to do their jobs, to get paid, to pay tax, to make everybody who's either here illegally or on benefits wrongly feel comfortable, it's a harder situation. Mark, good morning.
Hi, Jeremy. Mark from Manchester. About these benefits, got to keep saying it. Do you need to give these people vouchers, food vouchers? Go and pick it up one day. Next day, you get your gas voucher. Go and pick it up. Stand in the queue all day. Next day, electric voucher. Go and stand in the queue all day. Let me tell you, give it a week to be all out looking for work.
I could be seen as cynical, Mark. I'm not being negative at all. I remember years ago doing my other show, and people, whenever they brought that up, they used to say, you trade that for a bit of crack. Cigarettes, booze or whatever, people had trade vouchers. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not against it, though, as an idea. Let's head to... I can't say... Is this Gwynedd? Gwynedd? Is it? Where is this? Gwyneth, they are. Christian's a bit Welsh. Anne, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Is it Gwyneth? Gwynedd? What is it?
No, it's Gwynedd.
Oh, lovely, is it?
Yes, and
Yes.
it is lovely.
Oh, lovely. Come on then.
Regarding the soldiers, I am appalled, and I wondered, as the Labour Party had the manifesto, why can't the forces sue the Labour Party for what they're doing?
Do you know, Anne, I'm really pleased you made the call, because I find it, I said it earlier this morning, it's almost abhorrent to me that you're saying to people, you know, somebody said to me, so politicians are the ones that send our soldiers, our armed forces, into conflict, into battle, or into a situation. They do that. So if you're 30 years later trying to prosecute people simply for doing their job, then surely the reality would be, if you're now under the power of a government who doesn't agree with that, then you should be persecuting, or prosecuting, I should say, the politicians who made the decision, shouldn't you?
Well, this is it. I mean, it was the Labour Party's manifesto that formed the government.
Yeah.
So why can't... I mean, the forces must have brilliant lawyers. So why can't they get together and do that? Because it is absolutely disgusting.
I absolutely agree with you, darling. To me, it's beyond me. I don't understand it at all. I'm really grateful. Gwyneth, thank you very much indeed. Anne in Gwyneth, was lovely. 10:15. Are we doing a call, or are we going to Kinsey? What are we doing? We are going stateside. Usually it's 7:15. This morning it's 9:45. I'm delighted she's here. I have missed her enormously. The host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. You won't be surprised to know she's called Kinsey Schofield. Good morning.
I'm in my pajamas. It's very early here in DC.
You're in what time is it in DC?
4:46.
Oh, mate, I'm sorry. Did you get up specially?
Of course. You're Jeremy Kyle.
Can I just say, somebody will complain about this. Did you say it's 4:46?
Yeah, but I had to get up at...
Damn, you look good for 4:45 in the morning, girl. Damn, you look good.
I had to get up at 3:30 to do something with this for you.
Mate,
okay?
I was up at 2 to try and do something with this. But listen, thank you so much indeed. We've had so much. I'm so delighted to get you on quickly. Before we talk about King Charles and the visit, the Trump third assassination attempt at the White House Correspondents' Dinner has been dominating headlines over here. The bravery of certain Secret Service agents, how he got that close. Then the 60 Minutes thing where they threw at Trump his manifesto, paedophile and terrorist and rapist and all those things. What's the feeling in DC after this? Because treading carefully, does this throw massive public support back to the president because of it being yet another assassination attempt?
You'd think so, but I honestly feel like, unfortunately, we're not as sensitive to the topic as we once were. You know, I was thinking not too long ago, I mean, when Charlie Kirk died, I remember thinking, I'd never seen this in my lifetime, and I never thought I was going to, and I didn't want to. But I heard you earlier discussing, you remembered Reagan, JFK. You had seen this sort of thing in your lifetime, and it wasn't necessarily as shocking to you as it might be to someone like me that didn't see it in my lifetime until recently. So I would say I wish that people were more distraught over it, but the reality is it has unfortunately become something we're trying to navigate, but we've got to reject that comfort level of headlines like this. We have to say this can't be, our future, and hopefully we make that pivot.
It's interesting from my point of view. We've had a lot of people say, what do you expect in a country that has the gun laws? I don't want to get into that, because I think a bad person is a bad person and would get a gun or get weapons wherever and whichever country they're in. It's quite interesting to know from my viewer's point, lots of people saying this morning that they hear an awful lot in this country about far-right madness and everybody's far right. This is the far left, and pretty prevalent right now in the United States of America.
I'd give you the example of George Floyd. When George Floyd passed away, the left took it to the streets and they were burning down T-Mobile stores, and CNN stood on their in front of a microphone with a very straight face saying that they were peaceful protests going on behind them as there were flames above their head. And when Charlie Kirk passed away, people went to church. And I mean, analytically, statistically, that is truth. And so I think that that's a perfect example of what you're trying to communicate.
Completely. Interestingly, in all of this, Cole Thomas Allen arrested. That'll play itself out. But Donald Trump hailing brave King Charles. He and Queen Camilla landing in Washington, D.C. for a 4-day state visit. Soft diplomacy, one of the biggest and strongest things about the British monarchy, and certainly where the special relationship is right now, that's a good thing. The King's visit adjusted. What more can you tell us?
Well, I mean, I could tell you that I've probably lost access to certain things because I'm not like a regular of the White House. So they are strengthening their security. They want to make sure that everybody that's there is a familiar face going forward. You know, there's the idea of like a block party in Virginia. That will go ahead. But will the king spend as much time shaking hands and engaging with larger crowds than will he spend as much time as he was a week ago today or on Tuesday? Likely no. I think that they're going to be a little bit more strict with who has access to him. And you know, that's okay because we want to make sure that everybody's safe and we want to ensure that the king is safe, especially with the new circumstances we're dealing with. We're just grateful that he's been courageous enough to decide he's going to continue to come. It's what the queen would have done. The queen would have said, I'm still going to be there, Queen Elizabeth. So I am excited that King Charles is still going to be here later this afternoon.
Who do you think needs this trip more, Donald Trump or Sir Keir Starmer, in brackets King Charles?
I think Starmer needs this trip more than anybody does. I think that this is almost an inconvenient trip for Trump and King Charles because there are a lot of elephants in the room. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is one of those. And there's you know, seeing these two together, there will be people that are angry by that visual and accuse them of hiding Epstein files and protecting predators. That's going to stir up that conversation, unfortunately, despite the fact that I don't agree with that statement. You know, Prince Harry has been in the Ukraine and challenging Donald Trump. That's uncomfortable for both men, for both Charles and Donald Trump. So I think that this trip is designed to help Starmer's position, and I do think it will help Starmer's position. I think he's going to get everything he wants and needs from this trip, but I certainly don't think that it is going to necessarily benefit the king or Trump more so than Keir Starmer.
I was going to play a clip. I'm not. You brought up Harry. I thought we'd get through it. Sorry, who phoned him up and said, you're now an authority on world peace? Your wife sells jam and apparently says she's been the most trolled woman in the history of the world. You're now telling Putin to put your weapons down. Almost as mad as Zach Polanski. He's not going to listen, is he, Harry? For God's sake, man. What did he say at the weekend? I was born to be an activist. Ugh.
Well, at least Zach Polanski makes our boobs grow bigger, you know, like, what do you bring to the table, Prince Harry? You know, that's what I would offer. Who phoned him up? I mean, this is a really weird thing I'm witnessing. I feel like he is forcing the half in, half out, and I'm very frustrated with the palace, and that includes King Charles, that they won't step in and regulate and say, no, I'm sorry, you quit your job 6 years ago. We're sorry the Hollywood thing didn't work out, but we're not a backup plan, buddy.
Now, I agree. Before we talk about Fergie, I'm going to tell you an English joke. It's 4:43 in the morning in Washington, D.C. You look amazing. Apparently, do you know what the AA is?
No.
So the AA would be a car rescue service.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So apparently the AA...
We call it AAA here.
OK, apparently AAA have just arrived in Downing Street with a jack because Keir Starmer has a problem with his bus because he's thrown so many people under it.
But I mean, that's like when you said to me that Harry wanted to talk about world peace, that's literal. I was like, the guy that burned so many bridges. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely not. Actually, before we go, Duchess on the run. Sarah Ferguson, while I was away, discovered an Alpine, I'm going to say an Austrian Alpine clinic bolt hole, is apparently desperately phoning around wealthy friends, I don't know if she's called you, for somewhere to stay, because I read this thing the other day which said, I'm just keeping out of the public light because I care about my children children and grandchildren, but she took them to Epstein's Island, yeah, love? Yeah, at some point?
She took them to see Jeffrey Epstein after he was arrested for being a predator. Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be a continued situation for Fergie because she does not have, and it's my understanding that she doesn't have stability when it comes to finances and a home. And so I do think that she's going to run out of these friends. She's going to run out of people willing to help her out because she's going to overstay her welcome. And she's going to continue to do this for as long as she has to.
$1 million question before I let you go. Do you think Andrew Mountbatten Windsor will be lending her a few quid?
I don't think he has them. He's got porta potties in his backyard now. He's got priorities.
We love you, Kins. Thank you so much indeed. We'll speak to you tomorrow. Enjoy the King's visit to Washington, D.C. Kinsey Schofield. What is it? 5 to 10. Talk.
Sent us a picture that made me feel so ashamed. We look like hoarders.
Chris Marshall! Yeah, I'm actually recovering from an accident right now.
You've
landed loose today, haven't you? Yeah, don't shake the arm, Chris, too much.
You're with Danny Boyle, who's like the maddest director ever. He's got so much energy. He's like you.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh, hello. Hello. What's that? Welcome back. You see, everything was going really well. It's this one, is it? Julia's walked in and it's all gone wrong.
It's my fault, is it?
There's no reason there. It's that. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. I've just been away for a lovely weekend in Lisbon.
Did you?
Lovely and warm. Missed the marathon.
Yes, our Alicia from our show ran in the marathon.
Alicia, yeah, she got 4 minutes. Was it? I think 4:42.
That's amazing.
I know.
Can I just point out the man that won it?
Yeah.
Right. Ran it in less than 2 hours. I've spent that amount of time in a bath or on the... It's extraordinary, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it does seem like a lot of effort.
Really?
It does seem
like a lot of effort. What about the charity side of it?
Oh, God, everyone does that. Why? Why? Because people run it for charity. Are we not allowed to say, oh, marathon? As I always say, the best thing about the marathon is people stop telling you, I'm running the marathon.
This is from two people who will never run the marathon.
Well, to be fair, I've got torn cartilage in my knee. I can't run anywhere.